Today's guest is Kyle Irwin, a 6-time National Finals Rodeo qualifier, 2-time National Circuit Champion, 2-time Southeastern Circuit Champion in steer wrestling, and 2022 Average Champion at the National Finals Rodeo. From winning state titles in high school to making a name for himself in the professional rodeo circuit, Kyle has proven time and time again that determination and faith go hand in hand. He's a husband, he's a father, and when he's not throwing down steers, he's working at Foy Reynolds Cattle Company, balancing the ranch and rodeo life with the family life. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate that introduction.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I'm glad to finally have you on and get to know more details about you.
Heck yeah, you bet.
So we want to start out with reflecting on your upbringing in Robertsdale, Alabama. What was your life like growing up?
It was similar to most average American kids, I guess, growing up. Born 1990, and actually I was born in Nevada. My dad was in the Marine Corps in Bridgeport, California, and I was born in Carson City, Nevada. But at a young age, moved back home, and grew up right there in Robertsdale, close family. I always had my granddaddy and my great uncle were two predominant figures in my life growing up, and we lived real, close to them. Life right there in Robertsdale, man, it was good. Just pretty similar to every other American kid growing up. I always tell everybody my mom had us in church Wednesdays, Sundays, and grew up with my granddaddy and my great uncle living close by, and my sister was my best friend for a while. But yeah, it was good. It was. Grew up playing sports. Grew up downtown Robertsdale. It's pretty unique. We had about 25 acres. That was my granddaddy's land. They had a lot more land, but late 80s, early 90s, something that a lot of farmers went through. They had to whittle down a lot on the farm and had a dairy farm right there in Robertsdale. So a lot of memories, a lot of stories you always heard growing up. But all they had left whenever I was coming around was about 25 acres right there in Robertsdale. But that was my ranch, that no matter how big or small it was, that was us. And it's right in the heart of Robertsdale, too, matter of fact. So the elementary school I went to was half a mile up the road, and the high school I went to was a half mile the other way. And when the school bus passed by, they saw, we had horses and, a few cows. Mostly by then it was calves for me to rope and stuff in Robertsdale. But, yeah, so from as soon as I could remember till probably, I want to say it was age 11 was pretty important for as far as the term for my rodeo. But grew up going everywhere with my great uncle. He worked at Robertsdale, had a sale barn, Robertsdale Livestock. I remember I'd stay with him on Sunday nights and Monday nights when cattle were coming in, middle of the night to get unloaded. And if the phone ever rang, he'd always answer it like that, Robertsdale Livestock. But, and that was right there in the heart of Robertsdale, and my granddaddy had a lot to do with getting that thing up and going, early in the 1900s when it started. Ended up being a place a lot of guys in Robertsdale worked at. I had the privilege of getting to work there as help in the back pens when I was, 10, 11, 12, really through middle school. And so I was always with my uncle a lot. His name was George Campbell, and he also took care of some cows in that area for a lot of people. So at that young age, whenever you get done with baseball practice, last night we had baseball practice with Tripp, my son, here at Bonifay at the rec field. And, it just takes you down memory lane because with him on Saturdays, you get done with games or something, I'd get to go ride horses, throw on some blue jeans and some boots right quick and go move cows around and kind of get to live the life that you always envisioned as a kid, what you wanted. And I remember I'd look at Western Horseman magazines, see the big ranches out west, and I just wanted to do that so bad and be a part of that. And like I said, you heard stories, everybody talking about when we had the dairy farm or when we farmed and the land, and so you dreamed of maybe a bigger place than what you had, but nonetheless, we were rich in my mind as far as that little 25 acres. But due to the stockyard and my uncle working for other people, I got to be around all those guys. I got to be, live that lifestyle kind of each and every day. And on the other hand was my granddaddy. He was my great uncle's brother. And he was the welder. He was the worker. He was the, the mechanic on the farm. And I spent a lot of time with those two old men growing up. And so, ultimately, I think they kind of helped to shape what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be growing up. You can't tell me we're not creatures of habit, just as far as our environment, what we do each and every day. And being that we lived that so close to school, if mom couldn't ever get me from school or something, they'd pick me up, or my grandmother or something. So, once again, and I think it's just like every kid nowadays should be. I was with my grandparents a lot at a young age, and I think that was so crucial to my startup as far as what Kyle does each and every day now.
There's a lot of wisdom in grandparents.
Yeah, there is.
So did your family have a big influence on your passion for rodeo, or was that some other aspects of your life?
No, they did. They did. But just due to the fact that I tell everybody I didn't really get to watch the NFR on TV unless I was at a friend's house or my granddaddy got satellite when I was a junior in high school. So you heard stories. Like I said, we get the Western Horseman magazine. This would have been late 90s, early 2000s. Definitely not the social media, like there is now.
Yeah.
But the few magazines that come out, my uncle, he always wanted me to be a better hand. You need to ride better. You need to learn to do this with your horse. And he loved the Western Horseman magazine. And so anytime he would get one every month, when he got done reading it, he'd give it to me. Boy, you need to read this. And, and in that magazine, you would see highlights from the rodeos, highlights from, and that magazine is so cool because it shows the whole Western lifestyle thing, but mostly ranching and cowboying. But they'd have a section that would display the rodeo stuff. These becoming known as rodeo athletes, not just cowboys anymore. And so from that, I'd watch it and I got to see it, and it just built a love for me. Whenever twice a year, the small town of Robertsdale had their rodeo. They had one in the fall, similar to Bonifay, that was during the fair, and then they had one in the spring. And my uncle was also the president of the Baldwin County Cattle and Fair Association, and he helped maintain and took care of the fairgrounds, where the arena and stuff was. So whenever the rodeos come to town, anything that needed to be fixed up in the arena, I was up there helping him do it. If you had to hang banners or something, I was helping him do it. I always tell people, when you leave and somebody picks up the trash, I was helping him do it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves because I've picked it up.
Yeah.
I've watched the old man, my uncle, ride around on the gator and pick it up. I mean, that helps me to put things into perspective nowadays, necessarily with my actions, but also example for my children, my kids, or somebody might be watching you. But they had a huge influence, and I would really say that he did. My uncle did, and from there, that led into another cousin. His name was Bo Campbell. He has a rodeo company. His sons do now, and his daughter, they still operate and working for him. God rest Bo's soul. He died a few years back, but it's still alive and well. The rodeo company is, and they also helped to run an association based out of Robertsdale called the Professional Cowboys Association. It's an amateur association that's alive and well, doing great in the Southeast. And so he was a cousin, and he lived just right down the road. My Uncle George actually had a lot whenever he was younger coming up, as far as helping him rope and stuff. And his dad did. It's a big family over there, the Campbell family is. And so, once again, through Uncle George, you got to be around and then see the cousins and, see the cousin Bo that had the rodeo company. And I guess for most people, you might just show up to the rodeo and not pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes. But for me, unfortunately, I was free labor. So when the rodeo comes to town, what do you do when you get of age? You get behind the chutes. You start loading the calves that they use to rope. You load the steers. Then when you get old enough to unsaddle, you're unsaddling horses, that they use during the rodeo for every part of it. And I'm going to say by this time I'm age 10, 11, 12, all this is kind of really shaping me more than I know. And there's a group of buddies, man. I got a group of friends from over there. And I want to say there was probably, 7 or 8 of us, all within 1 year from each other in school that loved every bit of it just as much as the next one. And so just like with any other sport, you got friends wanting to do it. It kind of pushes you to want to do it. And so, that was it for me. Like I said, I played sports, loved playing sports, because a lot of those friends that had the love for rodeo, we played football, baseball together and stuff. And so, but then, just like anything else, you get bit by the bug and you got to choose. And I guess it's obvious which direction I chose. But in short, to answer your question, I think so. My family did. And, once again, you see the hand of God in all of it. What I thought at times was stunk, or this ain't no fun, or this is kind of, down in the mud, turned out to be pretty good and had some awesome opportunities for me later on down the road.
So did you high school rodeo, or where'd that journey start?
Yep, I did. So age 11, 6th grade, we sign up with the Alabama Junior Rodeo Association. Now they have Little Britches and Southeast Youth Rodeo Association. There's so many different associations. Back then, to my knowledge, it was just the AJRA. And, it was ages 6th through 8th, or grades 6th through 8th. Really, I think you could have went younger than that, but we started grade 6. Once again, there's the group of all of us buddies that wanted to do it. And we had a friend who's Chris Murphy was his name. Chris, still my buddy. But his granddaddy, Mr. Herman Murphy, had some steers. They team roped. And the deal about rodeo is, it can get expensive. It can cost money. It does. It really does. These animals aren't cheap. But to rodeo, you got to have a horse to participate if you're, a guy, girls too, or ride bulls and bucking horses. And I wasn't, that wasn't cut out for me. And at the time, the only horses we had were just, good using horses, good cow catching horses. A lot of them were probably older. And you're trying to compete at these rodeos against people that might have a little more money than you, or, and so their horses are a little more performance bred. So, that's just waste. You don't really want to do that. But at that young age, they have shoot dogging, which mimics steer wrestling, but you don't need a horse. You hook up to the steer in the chute. They draw a line. You run out past the line, and you throw him down. And so all of us guys got together. Some had horses, some didn't, but it didn't matter. You didn't need them, and we wanted to try to shoot dog. So a few of the dads, along with Mr. Herman Murphy and a man named Aaron Childress, he's from Loxley, Alabama. Aaron knew how to steer wrestle, and a lot of guys around there did. Let me rephrase that. A lot of guys did. And Bo was one of them, but I'll get to him in a minute. Aaron Childress, who was actually a friend of mine's great uncle. Here we go with this uncle stuff. Took about seven of us under his wing and taught us how to shoot dog. And I remember when we were learning, and it's one of the best theories now in every sport, he was so picky about the basics. Oh, he was so picky about the basics. And I remember like the first 2 months of practice, we tried to practice 2 times a week. Boy, it just wasn't no fun, like we're not getting to do this. He wasn't letting us throw them. He was showing us how to catch them, how to control your feet, and just so much stuff. And he was almost like a drill sergeant. He could have been pretty. But later on, the fundamentals that he drilled into you were so good, because then whenever he did start letting us put everything into motion, we were set. We were good. And so, like I said, there was probably 7 of us. That was through 8th grade. That was 6th, 7th, 8th grade, shoot dog. And then came in contact with another man who he happened to have a horse that was a calf roping horse, and let me take him and ride him at all the junior rodeos. So I was able then to rope at the rodeos, and that was really what I wanted to do. Like, I wasn't a very big kid. Shoot dogging was fun, but I got drug off a lot. So, his name was Bubba Cox. Mr. Bubba, he let me take his horse every weekend, and I was able to enter the rodeos in the roping, and the shoot dogging, and in the team roping. So, here we are going to these rodeos. That was probably age 11, 12, 13 was my middle school career, I call it. And had a chance my 8th grade year to win a saddle. That's a big deal. They give away saddles at these rodeos. That's one of the award saddles and buckles. And wanted to win a saddle. Didn't really have a very nice one that I was riding. It was good. It was using, but man, I just wanted one of these fancy, good ones. And I go in the 8th grade, kind of ahead of some guys, or ahead of the field, really. I think I went in leading it. And that was going to be my breakout year, gonna win this thing. And wah, wah, wah. I didn't. But that was a good learning lesson for me. It set up a lot more for me in high school. But that was junior rodeo. Those were some good times, man. That was the base of it all. That's what started it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's cool how you said that you started out doing the work before and after at the rodeo. And it's just a real humble start that you didn't start out competing. You started out doing the stuff nobody else wants to do, and then how you've made it to where you are now from.
Yep. There's a lot that goes into them. There is, and I always tell everybody especially in my event, steer wrestling, we're riding animals, chasing animals. Yeah. You try to pick up a pattern on these steers, but at any time they can change, exit stage left and do what they really want to do. So to get to help produce them, I guess what you'd say, and do all that from middle school to high school. Like I've said one time, I was telling somebody a story. I've loaded my own steer before. That's kind of like, what do you mean? Like, really? We were at the rodeo. We had not enough help. And I was entered also. And, I remember Bo, you got to load your steer. I said, I'm up. He said, put him in the chute first, and then you can get on and run him. But like I said, it puts into perspective some things. And you always go back to picking up your trash, because I've done that before. The secretary, my mom has been the secretary before. Sometimes you'll see guys or hear guys that we're all walking on eggshells. It's a lot. It's expensive. But when they get short and snappy with the secretary, and, I've heard my mom come home before. Well, that person wasn't very nice. So,
Seen both ends of it.
Yeah, it just makes you put things into perspective. It does.
So what did the rest of your high school rodeo career look like?
Yep. So starting freshman year, I've kind of helped Bo a little bit more now. We're not shoot dogging. You got to go, jump off the horse now. There's no more shoot dogging high school rodeo, 9th grade. And at this time I had jumped steers before, which is something I probably won't let my sons do until 14, 15 years old. At 13, Bo had me running steers off the horse, and looking back now, I understand why. He always needed runs put on horses, because part of the, taking them to the rodeo, using them, selling them, becomes really a way to make a living. Well, you got to have live dummies to try the horses out first, and that's what I was. But I credit that, later on in my career, came from that. So in 9th grade, 14 years old, I've already jumped steers when it starts, and I'm going to these high school rodeos, but I still hadn't hit my growth spurt. I'm little. I'm competing against my older cousins. They're really doing good at the rodeos, and I'm not really even getting noticed. I always joke around with my wife, because she was a senior when I was a freshman. I'm like, you didn't notice me back then. I didn't win near as much. But and so the other events too, I'm not as competitive at the other events as I want to be. I'm not as competitive at the steer wrestling at this time. And I get this bright idea. I want to make it to nationals. I'd like to say I went to nationals all 4 years of high school. That's where all the states combined. They take the top 4 out of each event, compete for a national high school title. Well, Alabama only had like 3 saddle bronc riders. I didn't want to ride bulls. There was more, and I wasn't. And they bareback riding. No, I didn't have no interest in that. But I want to try saddle bronc riding. I've always thought it was cool. It's one of the original rodeo events. It makes sense. If you're breaking colts or going to buck, I get it. I do. So I attend a saddle bronc riding clinic in North Alabama. I got on 4 horses at the clinic. Didn't ride none of them. Didn't learn near as much as I needed to, but I entered a rodeo. I thought, heck yeah, man, I'm going to go if I'll just ride one. I'll get enough points, and I'll get to go to nationals, which honestly, the next part of this was a blessing in disguise, because those horses out west at nationals would have just ruined me. But I went to a rodeo in Meridian, Mississippi, got on a horse, and ended up breaking my arm. Not bad, but I did. I broke it, so arms casted up now good. I can't do any rodeo event. And that finishes out the rest of actually my sophomore year, but get healed up, roll into my first semester of my sophomore year, and I hit a growth spurt. My older cousins had graduated. They were gone. I got to ride the good horse now that Bo had going to the rodeos instead of the backup, and things started to click. Win the first rodeo, go on. I'm leading the standings for the year, and matter of fact, it turns out to be that year, and I won my first saddle. I'm in Andalusia, Alabama, 2006, I think. Yeah, that would have been it, maybe. I was a senior. I was a sophomore in high school, and I did. I won the deal. Hooray! Here we go. And a little bit of me, I got this figured out. This is good.
Yeah, you made it.
Yeah, I made it. I qualified to nationals. I know what I'm doing. Everybody else, step out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I go to nationals, and I get it handed to me. This, and it was good, especially later on, looking back at, just at how you didn't quite have it figured out like you thought you did, but you learned a lot. But
learn through the failures.
Yeah, you did. I did. But all right, so yeah, my sophomore year, I get the state championship sewed up. I go to nationals, get taught a lesson, about you still don't know what you think you know. And by this time, me and that circle of guys I was talking about, we're getting all pretty tight. We're competing against each other all the time, but we're practicing together every day. And looking back, that had a huge footprint as far as my career professionally. There was a group of guys down there. There's a bunch of them, and I'll promise you I'll forget a name. But there was one, a guy, his name was Zach Crawford, and he was one of my best friends, still is. And he pushed me more than he probably realized. You know what I mean? And at the time we didn't know it.
Yeah.
But, Buddy Childers, Aaron Hyatt, we all bulldog together, TJ Drinkard, and we all could do it. Every one of them, Aaron could bulldog, Buddy could. Everybody was talented. But for some reason, I think it was because me and Zach were very built similar, tall, skinny guys, but both pretty aggressive. Zach was real aggressive, actually. But we would push each other, and like I said, maybe not even realize you were doing it. But Bo would make us compete every day when we got done practicing. He'd make us match it. It might only be for $1, but you don't realize when the money's on the line.
Yeah.
I get to see it now with my kid, watching him play sports. Practice goes good, but whenever the pressure's on. Yeah. And so I think that's good at a young age. And Bo, he understood that too, especially as high school boys. My goodness. But me and Zach kind of pushed each other in a way, like I said, I didn't realize at the time. And looking back now, whenever guys come to me for help or trying to, better themselves what they're doing, I ask them, how's your circle? Do the guys that you eat lunch with at school, is there any similarities in what you are doing, and in what ways are they pushing you to get better? Because like I said, those 7 guys back home, Chris Murphy, Josh Villarreal, there was a bunch of us, Cody Harris, and all those guys worked other events. But we were still a pretty good clique, and, we all wanted to be Cowboys, what we wanted to do. So then my 11th grade year rolls around, and we're competing, and me and Zach are, knocking it out throughout the year. And Zach ends up winning the saddle, which was great. It was awesome. It was tight down the end. Like I said, you're talking about best friends here. Like, we hung out each other's house all the time. And he ends up being the champ that year. And we go to Shawnee and Nationals once again. Our Nationals was in Springfield, Illinois that year, I think. Once again, not much luck. Zach did a little better at nationals, I remember, than I did, but you're putting yourself more pressure on yourself than you had by this is the national. We're going against guys from Wyoming, Oklahoma. We got to represent Alabama. No, man, it's just rodeo. Looking back now, it's what I tell them. It's just you're just running another steer. It's no different. But it's still at that level. I've always said rodeo offers a very unique stepping stone process. If you'll just stay in your lane and respect it. A lot of guys, kind of like I did, between seasons, you get to thinking, I'm not going to those. I'm in this level now. Man, just climb that ladder is all you got to do. And so, a little bit of it, felt like we got to show out. This is Nationals or Shawnee. And Shawnee is a really big International Finals Youth Rodeo is what they call it, IFYR, in Shawnee, Oklahoma, the week before the Nationals. And a lot of the people go to both. Shawnee pays a lot more cash. Nationals pays in scholarships, which is great. Yeah. But Cowboys love cash too. It costs something to get out there. So Shawnee was a big deal too. Well, so now you move into our senior year, and like I said, the same group of guys back home. We're practicing together, knocking it out all day, every day. It seems like when we don't have school, we're running steers, or we're all working now for Bo with Bo Campbell Rodeo Company. And Bo loved it. Probably he had a bunch of free help. But we were always out at his house practicing. He had the horses, had the steers, had the rodeo company. So you're at his house practicing, and I ended up winning the year-end championship again. Won the state championship, whatever you want to call it, for the Alabama High School Rodeo Association. My senior year, just another awesome. One of the fundamental basics to this whole deal that started off, and you don't realize it at the time. And we go to Shawnee, and my trailer got stole at Shawnee. Now, this is a pretty interesting part. I was borrowing the trailer from a friend of mine, Aaron Hyatt, him and his brother, Michael Hyatt. We all rode out there together. Alabama headed to – that year, Nationals was in New Mexico. She went to Shawnee, Oklahoma first, on to New Mexico. So carpooling a bunch of us. It's kind of the way Cowboys do. Mm-hmm. In high school, normally everybody stays in their own rig with their own parents. But we were such a tight group that I think our parents maybe let us go alone, and they followed us or something like that. Way too much rain for sure. But we all survived. And there's a crew of us going to Shawnee and Nationals together. And my trailer, the trailer that we had, wasn't big enough to haul it all. So Michael loaned me his trailer. And, dude, it's like day 2 of Shawnee. I walk out one morning, and my trailer's gone. Like, it's missing. And sure enough, it got stole. Luckily, 6 months later, they found it. But, I mean, saddles, everything that I have won, that saddle that I won, the first one, that was the one I was competing in. That's the one I used. Buckles, my mom's clothes, all my clothes. We stayed at a hotel just a mile up the road, but – yeah, and then the 2 guys that was with me, all their stuff. But it was a weird thought because you walk out there, am I still asleep? You know what? I know I parked right here. And, the trailer, it was gone. And so everybody comes together and kind of helps me. I had to have a saddle because I had to compete that night. Had to have a saddle, had to have a bit, bell boots. I mean, everything. Feed, hay. I didn't have nothing. I just had a hungry horse in a stall, and he wasn't mine. I was borrowing him from my cousin Will, Bo's son. And so everybody comes together and helps, and a lot of the vendors there heard about it. And, I had people give me clothes, boots. I mean, everything. I think the only thing I had was my tennis shoes because, just changed at the trailer before you competed. And so, we had been gone from home like 3 days on this 2-week trip. Rig's gone. So everybody pulls together and helps me. And that night I did good. I want to say I won the round or placed in a round at Shawnee. And Zach I don't remember what his time was, but, he was within the realm of a good run. Yeah. We're in good shape. I don't know how many 100 kids, you're competing against, but go to round 2. And now I've kind of gotten used to this borrowing stuff because it's like day 3 of no trailer. And, no trailer, no clothes, no nothing except for what everybody had donated to us by then. I remember a radio station raised some money. That's a true story. And like me and my mom and the 2 guys that were with us, we got to go to a Western store right down the road and spend this money that was raised and get clothes. And so the second round of Shawnee, Zach wins it. And I think it was pretty fast, 3-something. For a high school kid, that's doing it. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty average again, you know what I mean, as far as my time the first round. And me and Zach were first and second going into the short round. And I remember old Bo, he was so happy. He was just thrilled. And, dude, I mean, Cinderella story, you couldn't wrote it up no better. We go to the short round. Zach wins the short round. I think I win second. Zach wins Shawnee. I win second. I mean, 2 guys from Alabama at one of the toughest high school rodeos, first and second. I remember Bo, he was so proud when we came out there. And And Zach won a new saddle. It was nice and everything. And I remember he bumped me. He's like, "You can have my old one." No, but and then we went on to nationals, and I think at nationals I ended up I don't know, top 15, I guess, out of that deal. And that was a accomplishment. You know, one of the top 5 or something in the nation to say that. But and then once you move on to college, you realize the high school accolades, they really don't matter that much, other than the hunger that it gives you. You know, It gives you one of two things. You either realize, I think I want to do this, you know, or I don't. And so it was at Shawnee my junior year. I rewind 2 years. And my mom bumped into my future rodeo coach and didn't even know it. Happened to be sitting beside him in the stands. And he was there to watch Cody Harris, who was one of my crew. You know, he was there with us. We were all there together. And my mom, I remember she's pretty good at making sure her babies take care of. But she said, you know, who are you here to see? Found out he was a rodeo coach and whatnot. And he told her, I'm here to see Cody. She said, well, you know, Cody's a fine young man. He's with us, you know, our group. But you need to look at my son, too.
Look at Kyle.
And, yeah, look at Kyle. Look at Kyle. And I had a bad performance that year, you know, and I think this guy's probably like, no, I don't think so. But that turned into a relationship with him, and it turned into a scholarship, you know. And I always tell everybody that was Mama and Grandma's dream. It was mine, too. But, I mean, once I saw that you could win money bulldogging, why would I do anything else? And so, yeah, that's where high school, that was kind of a wrap of high school. It was a good time. Those were some of the awesome times, you know, really, with your friends. And I've created friendships with guys, man, that you'll never break or never lose. And it started at high school and rodeo. It did.
So where'd you end up going to college at?
All right, so that man that was in the stands with my mom, his name is actually Guy Smith, and he was the rodeo coach at Western Oklahoma State College, WOSC, in Altus, Oklahoma. They got a big military base in Altus Air Force Base, and then other than that, there's a college. Other than that is Cowtown. But when we went and toured the colleges, we went to a couple. My senior year when we were out there, my mom, myself, one of my friends, Buddy Childress, and his mother. We went to a couple different colleges, but Altus, for some reason, I liked it. I liked a lot about it. I liked the living conditions, and so that was kind of where I made my commitment to go to school. And Cody Harris and Buddy ended up going there too. So here's two guys I graduated high school with, and we're all going to school together, living together in Western Oklahoma. And once again, I made some of the best connections, you know, while I was there. There's a family out there, a man that'll always be a very good friend of mine. His name's Tim Drury, and I worked for Tim and his wife. He had a construction business, and, you know, it just gave you opportunities when you maybe didn't have it. And I remember Mom and Dad telling you when you leave, like, you know, we can't send you money every week. You get out there, you have to get a job, you have to win at this thing you love, you know, rodeo. And that's one of the unique deals. Our money's nothing like this NIL stuff. These guys are getting paid now. But rodeo, you know, you can be in college and go compete at a professional rodeo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't be in college and go play a professional football game. Yeah. But they also don't get paid every snap like we get paid every time the shoot opens if you win. So Tim Drury and his wife, you know, they had it's called Shoestring Enterprises. I remember I asked him one time, why is your company named that? And he was talking about making it a small town business and, you know, working for yourself. And he said, son, because the last job that we took that really got us going, we were so broke, all we had left was our shoestrings. I thought that was pretty good. And so, yeah, but anyways, the connections I made through the junior college there, you know, was great. And they got an outstanding rodeo program now, new rodeo coach, but still, you know, I tell a lot of young guys, check this place out because it was crucial to me, and like I say, the people I met when I was there. And so I rodeoing for Guy Smith my freshman year. I end up third in the region. They take the top 3 to the National College Finals. So here I am right out of high school. I make it to the college finals as a freshman, and I go to the college finals and did fairly well. And I remember Guy put me in contact with a kid he was a kid at the time. He's not now, but Morgan Grant was his name, for a horse to ride because the college finals in Casper, Wyoming. Well, it's a long ways, and at this time I still don't have my own horse. The good thing about steer wrestling is you can mount out. You can ride other guys' horses if you're a decent jockey. If you're not, they might tell you, kick rocks. You got to ride something else. But looking back at what Bo made me do with riding all the different horses, I can get along with different stuff. I don't have to have the same horse every time. And so that's good for a guy that, maybe don't have the finances to buy this rig and go. And because also when I win, I pay people 25%.
Yeah.
So, they're more apt to put you on, let you keep riding if you keep winning.
Yeah.
And so, a guy put me in touch with this guy named Morgan Grant. And Morgan had a horse that belonged to a man named Curtis Cassidy. And this is in 2009. Now, fast forward to 2022, you said it when you introduced me, and I won the average at the National Finals Rodeo. I won that riding a horse that belongs to Curtis Cassidy. Not the same horse I rode my freshman year at the college finals, but that was the connection.
Wow.
10 years later, 2012, 2022, I'm rodeoing with Curtis. And I remember, first time I kind of started rodeoing with him after I'd rode his horse at the finals and won that, I said, dude, you don't remember this, and you might not have ever even known. Morgan might not have ever told you, but I rode your horse my freshman year at the college. And he laughed, and he knew the horse, and he knew I'd rode. I didn't win any money, so I didn't write no checks out. But that's kind of rodeo for you, and Alabama kid, rodeoing in Wyoming, representing his college. Guy Smith was from Canada. Curtis Cassidy's from Canada. So my coach knew him. He knew Morgan Grant had the horse leased for the college finals and knew that they would let me ride. And that's just people, I think, helping you. Surely Guy wanted the rodeo team to do good because that looked good on him. Yeah. So that was that deal. And then so I go to college my sophomore year, go back to Altus. Now, kind of like my sophomore and junior year of high school, I've made college finals. I think I'm the big guy on campus. And, you go through some humbling experiences. I broke my ankle that fall trying to rope calves. By this time, guys wanting me to – he's like, dude, you just need to be a bulldogger. Put the ropes down. I always tell everybody I rope so bad I threw the rope down and I catch him with my hands now. But my sophomore year, it don't look like it's starting out very good. And I'm trying to buy my own horse. I'm trying to get a horse, because that's just makes sense. You save the 25%. But with the horse comes vet bills, comes feed, comes hay. And then, if you don't win, you still got to feed and hay it. Yeah. If you're riding somebody else's horse and you don't win, hey, ain't my horse,
Yep.
And so that's halfway through my sophomore year. I hadn't collected any points for the rodeo team. I hadn't made any money, and my leg's in a cast. And when we start back, the first rodeo back in the spring is at Manhattan, Kansas State University, and all that particular region was the Central Plains region, Kansas and Oklahoma, those two states. And any colleges that had a rodeo team or club in those two states, you're eligible to compete in the National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association. And so I couldn't tell you all the schools we competed against, but 10 rodeos, so 10 colleges host a rodeo each year. And starting in the winter, I don't know why they did this. It was January or February, they'd have the rodeo in Manhattan, Kansas, and it is cold in Manhattan, Kansas. And I just got my leg out of the cast, but I was ready, and I had kind of got myself mentally and physically ready to compete. And it's one of the first years I run back, and I call a guy, his name's Cody Woodward. Cody ended up being a good friend of mine, but at the time we're competing against each other. He's going to Northwestern Oklahoma State University. I'm going to Western Oklahoma State College, but there's no rule against this kid can ride this guy's horse or not. Once again, we're getting paid, and Cody's a businessman. Maybe he knew I was going to win, and I won. And once again, similar to Bo's deal, Cody had a young horse. He was a phenomenal horse, but at this time he was pretty green, pretty young, and he knew this kid from Alabama needed something to ride, so he sticks me on him, and I won. It went really good. And I told him, I said, hey, next weekend, the next rodeo, I want to ride this horse again. Yeah, no problem. And, man, I'll be dang, I went on and I won the region that year. Sophomore in college, won the region on this horse that was shaping up to be pretty good, and he ended up being great. And so at the end of my sophomore year of college, I'm at one of the last rodeos. It's looking like I'm going to win the region. I'm kind of a hot commodity, I guess you'd say. And I go to Panhandle State University. For some reason, it's in Goodwill, Oklahoma. I mean, it is in the middle of nowhere. It is. But out there, to take it back to when I rode broncs in high school, I always loved saddle bronc riding and being a cowboy. I always wanted to win the all-around. Mm-hmm. The all-around buckle is the only buckle that says cowboy on it. Yep. The rest of them states your events. Yeah. And, take you back to my running up and down the alley of Robertsdale Livestock. I wanted to be a cowboy, a cowman. That was just as what I thought I wanted to do and be, not necessarily pick one event. I wanted to be good at all of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I guess the Lord had other plans because, like I said, to do that, you got to have your horses. You can't borrow a horse in every mm-hmm. event. And I was trying to do that. But I knew up there, man, they rode broncs. They won. There's a family up there called the Etbauer family. And they were known for NFR World Championships, NFR qualifications. Their son Trails won the Linderman Award I don't know how many times, and that's rough stock and time to win. They were just cowboys. But, man, the day I went up there, the wind was blowing. It was miserable. And I just thought to myself, is this really what I want to do for the next 2 years? Probably 3. It turned out it was 3, but for the next 2 years. And that weekend I won that rodeo, and Cody was like, hey, man, you're fixing to be done with this junior college. Where are you going next? And I was like, I came to sign the papers that day. I'd set it up and everything here. I was like, but I just got a weird feeling. He said, man, don't go to school here. Come to school at Alva with me. We can rodeo together and you can ride this horse. Hook, line, and sinker. He got me. I'm telling you, I just turned around, looked at the coach at Alva and said, hey, I want to come to school for you next year. Yeah, no problem. And so that was my first big boy decision, I guess, because now I've stepped out of the junior college where they kind of took care of you a little bit more. I had living, all that was covered in my schooling as far as the living expenses. Now I go into a university, and you can either live in the dorms or you can rent a house. Well, I'm going to try to rent a house. I can do this. I'm winning enough now, and I got a little extra residual income coming in. And so I moved in there at Alva the start of my junior year in August with a guy named Cole Wilson and his wife, Michelle Wilson. They were from Kansas, man, great people. Once again, and they help old Kyle. There's definitely some months they probably floated the rent for me, because they did. Once again, you go through this valley after coming off this mountain of being the champ. Yep. And I just, in the while all this is going on too, I've bought my professional permit. You start out, you got to buy your permit. You got to win $1,000 on your permit to buy your card. I bought my permit, and I'm going to try this pro rodeo thing. It's a little more expensive than the amateur deal. And I'd been to, the amateur finals back home here, the PCA finals in Biloxi, Mississippi twice. But I wanted to do the pro rodeo thing. Once again, I didn't just know all the ins and outs about it. But I knew what it was. Obviously, now you're in college, been in college 2 years, and a lot of these guys I'm competing against are pro rodeoing also. So if I can measure up to them, these college rodeos, surely I can measure up to them. Yeah, And I go to the first pro rodeo I go to, I'm a couple holes out of placing. Made a good run, but don't win no money. But I remember looking on the magazine when it came out, the payout was phenomenal compared to these amateur rodeos. I mean, it was like sixth place paid what first place paid at the amateur rodeo. I'm like, man, these rodeos are so much better. So the second rodeo I go to, it's a pretty big one. It's like 10,000 added purse. Plus, when you get 100, there was 100-something guys entered at that rodeo. Guyman, Oklahoma. And that was one of the first rodeos I competed against the heroes that I'd created in rodeo. Todd Soon, Luke Branquino. These were guys, Jason Miller, Dean Gorsuch. These are big name guys that all got gold buckles, average titles, won every major rodeo ever across the United States, ever type deal. You know what I mean? Like, and now my name is on the list with them. Yeah. I'm not asking for their autograph. I hope they hear this. Now I'm trying to get their money. And I'm going to go out on a limb and call it beginner's luck. Because the first day I just threw one down. I think I was like 5 flat, which is okay. But what's the cool thing is later that day in what we call the reruns, there's so many guys, there's not enough steers, so they have reruns, and it's just luck of the draw whether you go first or second on that particular steer. You want to go second because if you're there to watch him go first, you kind of you get his pattern. Mm-hmm. Well, I was second on him that day, and Todd Soon, I was 5 flat on him. Todd Soon came back, and the professional that he is, I remember he maxed him out and sped him up by like a second and a half, or maybe 2 seconds. He was maybe no, he would have been like 4 flat or something. By a full second, he speeds him up. And I remember thinking, dang, that guy I was, not embarrassed, but I thought, all right, this has got to go better because these rodeos too. The one deal about the pro rodeos is the entry fees are about double what the amateur rodeos are. They're high. Yeah. And a guy trying to ball on a budget like me, this was a big step. But the next day, I've got a steer that they haven't done much on him because he's supposed to stop. Now, when a steer stops, it makes him harder to catch and a lot of this, that, and the other. But I'm just this young, dumb, hungry college kid. And I'll be dang, man, I catch this steer. He stops right there, snag him somehow, and busted him and was like 3-3. And Cash Myers, another guy that I grew up watching, rodeo, quite a bit older than me, was 3-3 also. I split the round with, another dude that I'm thinking, no way. Yeah. And I come back in the short round. I make the short round, come back in the short round, and I place again and end up winning second out of the rodeo and win close to $6,000. And I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, I've got this figured out. Like, there will never be another broke day. I've got it. This is so easy.
This is your first pro rodeo?
That was my second pro rodeo. Yeah, it might as well have been my first, but it was my second one I'd ever been to, competed at, whatever. And I walk away, the reserve champ was $6,000. And that money also went towards the circuit. At that time, I was in the Central Plains region in college, and I was in the Prairie Circuit on the professional because I had to use your address where you live, and it was at Oklahoma at the time. Well, it probably took $7,500 to qualify for the circuit finals, and they give you a full year to gather that up. I did that in one rodeo, and so I'm thinking, man, I got this going. And I go to the college finals that year. I won the region as a sophomore. I'm killing it in the circuit and the PRCA. And once again, I got it figured out, man. This is pride. That's probably been one of my biggest deals, pride. So I go to the college finals that year, nothing. I mean, just embarrass myself, don't win anything. But Cody Woodward, the guy that got me to go to college with him, he said, hey, why don't you come rodeo with me this summer? He lives in Dupree, South Dakota. He says, why don't you come up here? You can ride this horse more. We can kind of get to know each other better. We can go to these rodeos, and then at the end of July, when the Prairie Circuit rodeos pick back up, you can go back down, to those rodeos. I thought, okay, perfect. And that was the year of the bad oil spill out in the Gulf. Because my buddy Zach, if you go back to my high school days, when we went to different colleges, he went to Snyder, Texas. I went to Oklahoma. So there's about 2 years there. We weren't together a lot. But I tell him, what are you doing this summer? I'm going, this way to rodeo. And he said, man, I'm going to the beach, that cleanup. He had a pretty good gig, and they did. They paid him good. And I remember I was so broke. I remember thinking, I should do that. You know what I mean? I should be responsible, put everything I want to do aside, and go work because they were guaranteeing him like quite a bit of money each month down there cleaning up that SAM. And shit, as a cowboy does, like, no, I didn't do that. I straight the other way. Lived with Cody and his family all summer. They got I don't know how many thousands of acres their ranch is. Their dad, Mr. Delbert, he checks their cattle during the summer with a plane. He got an old 70s model plane, that little airport there in Dupree. He's the only one that that flies in and out, I think. Wings duct taped on. But they had some bad storms come through, and a lot of fence was down, a lot of cattle got mixed. So he was flying every morning, and he'd check where everything was, and he'd come back, and they'd have a map. This is way different than my 25 acres or the small farms in Robertsdale. Yeah, where I'd handled cattle before. biggest place I'd probably ever been on was 500 acres in Robertsdale, you know, and that's a pretty big spread. That is down here. Up there, you know, that's their horse pasture. And so we would check on a map, you know, what needed fixed, where the cattle was, and then a trailer load of horses and a sack lunch. You take off and gone all day. And, man, I love that. I did. I remember, you know, so much that year or that summer. And we'd rodeo on the weekends. So cowboy all week, rodeo on the weekends. And that was so cool to me because, you know, I was getting to do what, one, you saw on the Westerns, you wanted to do as a kid. Two, I'm not intruding. This guy invited me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm getting a rodeo, not making a whole lot of money, but who cares? You know, I remember they bale hay at night, their alfalfa, because the dew helps keep the dust down. And we'd be so far from town, you couldn't see a street light, just the lights on the tractor. And whenever 2, 3 in the morning, whenever we'd shut everything down to go sleep for a couple hours and then come back and pen cows, fix fence, you know, it was a full same thing every day. When you'd shut those tractors down and it was pitch black out there, man, you know what I mean? It didn't seem like the stars were right there, but I remember thinking, like, I wouldn't see this in Robertsdale. Not that there's things in Robertsdale that you'll see not in South Dakota, but there's some of that. Some of those views. I remember I went to a rodeo that summer with him in the Badlands, and if you ever get the chance to go to South Dakota and see some of those Badlands or Mount Rushmore, you know, or they're fixing to finish a statue, I think, of Crazy Horse. You know, some of that stuff and the heritage, and man, that, you know, that was just pretty neat stuff. And here it is, rodeo, and wanting to be a cowboy, taking me to that, and
taking
so
you all over the
you know, and so then we go back. School starting in August, and you know, I moved in with Cole and Michelle, and finished out my junior year that year, or rodeo all year that year, my junior year, and I rodeo with Cody, riding his horse, and once again qualify for the college finals. So this is the third year now, riding with for a new school, Northwestern Oklahoma State University. It's in Alva, Oklahoma, and I did good. Man, I ended up second at the college finals. Dang near won it. A guy named Jason Thomas, who I still compete against Jason at the pro rodeos. He's made the NFR. That's something kind of you know, pretty neat. Competed against Jason in high school. Same thing with like Wagasback, Will Loomis, all these guys. The ones that stay true, you know, Jesse Brown would be the only one that played football and then started rodeoing later. But most of them, high school, college, professional.
Kind of grown up with them.
Yeah, you know, like I said, there's that stepping stone system that rodeo has again. And so I go to the college finals that year, and I did good. I almost won it. Jason ended up being the champ, and he got me by like a tenth of a second. But once again, you know, I've made these Prairie Circuit finals down there. I'm just building steam as to, man, I got to try this at the pro level. I got to try this at the pro level. And so you finish out, you know, that summer, and then go back to school in August, my senior year. Now, so I started my senior year. And I always like this part because this is where in steps a new college rodeo coach, or the one we had previous, resigned. And Stockton Graves comes in. And Stockton was one of these guys now that I've competed against at the Prairie Circuit finals. He's rodeoing professionally. That's how he makes his living. And as we get older, you know, you can't do it for forever, but Stockton decides to take on the role as rodeo coach. But he's still rodeoing professionally, and he's there my senior year. Cody has graduated, but he's the assistant coach now. Yeah. So he still let me ride his horse, and it's looking like this deal's set up for you, Irwin. You know, now you got a really good horse ride. You got a guy that's going everywhere rodeoing with you, and your coach, is one of the best in the world. Not only has he made the NFR, he actively made the NFR that year. Yeah. And so you get to rodeo with him and see it. And Stockton, man, he's an interesting character. He's awesome, very intense, and but also I think I responded that well. Starting off, I told y'all I grew up doing a lot of things with my great uncle and my granddaddy. Yeah. Two old bachelors that lived together, and they treated me like a knothead little grandson and great nephew. So I don't know. I think I responded to that good because Stockton was very stern, very blunt, but straightforward. He'd tell you. And I remember he told me that one day. You know, he said, "You can do it, and you've got the ability to do this for a living. We'll see if you got the heart."
No.
You know, in a roundabout way. I keep that G rated because, like I said, he was blunt, but he was right. You know, and I think sometimes maybe people ought to be a little more blunt because of the you know, what you could have got tied up with the finances of rodeo and everything. If you step into it half-hearted, good luck. They do not care. Because now this time I'm 22, a 22-year-old kid, take for instance now I'm 35. I make my living rodeoing and I have 3 kids. If I see a 22-year-old kid at a rodeo with his lip poking out because he's out of allowance, and will you please take it easy on me tonight? No, not a chance.
Yep.
Not a chance. You know, I mean, but that's just the nature of the beast of, I guess, competing for a check versus putting in the hours. But you do put in the hours at the practice pen. So, you know, he was blunt, and it was good because, you know, like I've just been talking about, these highs and lows of my high school and college, they still were successful, but they were really good or really low and had to climb back up. And so once you kind of get to know Stockton and tell him that, he said it best. He said you get complacent when you're at a high. And that's one of the most dangerous things you can do.
You got to stay hungry.
Here comes the valley. You know, I mean, you don't want to go in there. Well, then, you know, change your actions, maybe in the practice pen or maybe at the rodeo or wherever. Something's got to change. I remember that was good for me because it's the middle of my senior year of college. Me and a guy named Levi Rudd are kind of having our way with the steer wrestling. Between me and him, and I ended up winning the region. He won second, and you know, Rudd's a great dude, and he's still Bulldog's phenomenal. Still competing against him at the pro level. And I remember Stockton telling me coming home from a college rodeo. I rode to a lot of the rodeos with my coach. That was just one of those deals, trying to learn from him. But I remember him telling me, we're going to go rodeo this summer, Kyle. Me and Drew Melvin and Cody Woodward, the guy whose horse I'm riding. And we need a 4th guy. At these pro rodeos, you can enter groups of 4. And he said, you know, why don't you go with us? And immediately, I hate to say this, my first response was fear. And the horror story you always heard from everybody, or not necessarily from everybody, but now looking back, from those who didn't make it, was when you get out there and you run out of money, you're broke, you got to come home. Well, here's the deal. Don't run out of money. You say, well, how do you do that? Win. Yeah. You know what I mean? Win. And now, with that being said, like, it is smart to plan and maybe have you a backup plan, but at the same time, win. Yeah. You know, I remember hearing a guy say one time he was upset because this rodeo had limits on it. It wasn't going to allow nobody else outside of the top 40 or whatever to go to its rodeo. And the guy was mad. Well, you need to open it up and let 80th go too. And the guy, there was another man standing right there in the circle, and he looked at him. He said, you can get into the rodeo. He said, no, I can't. I'm not in the top 40. He said, yes, you can. He said, how? He said, practice. You know, and I thought, well, that was mean, but he's right. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's you put in the time, you put in the entry fees, and that's what scares everybody is the fees and the fuel, the expense. But I'm prepared for it. You know, I've practiced for these situations, and I'm ready. And then with the winning now especially comes the sponsors. You know, that's really taken off the last 10 years, really the last 5. I say COVID changed it. Well, you know, what we're doing now, podcasts, social media, exposure. Yeah. I can advertise for your company all over the nation. How? Well, just like NASCAR, I'll have a uniform, my shirt with your logo on it. I've seen rigs have logos on the side of the rigs, social media platforms, interviews, podcasts, you know, shout outs, all that. And so then that helps with the expense. But when you first get started, college kid, you know, a lot of these companies are going to be hesitant about sending you a check and putting our name on you until we see, 1, if you win, and 2, how you act when you do win or when you do lose. I had a guy ask me one time, what would I tell young kids about getting more sponsors? And the same response, practice. If people worried more about the output, really the input that turns into the output of your performance from practice, dedication, gym, if that's what you want to do, hard work, whatever, you would get sponsors because they want winners.
Yeah.
And they want, you say, well, and people that carry themselves in a respectful manner. Yeah, absolutely. But that can be trained.
Mm-hmm.
That can be rehearsed. That can be edited. Winning, that comes from blood, sweat, and tears.
Yep.
And I had a guy tell me one time, if you want to rodeo for a living, he said, that's great. Victor Deck told me this. He said, but look at it as a school janitor. School janitor shows up at 8. Most of them leave at 3, maybe 5, but most school janitors show up, do their job, they leave. But they put in a full 8-hour day.
Yeah.
If you're going to rodeo, put in a full 8 hours. Think, well, I can't practice for 8 hours. No, you can't, but you can go to the gym for 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can, first thing in the morning, handle your business. Mine's spiritual, man, 100%. Yeah. First thing in the morning, read the Bible, get you a good routine. You say, well, I don't have enough time in the morning. Get up earlier.
Yeah.
Get up earlier. I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep at night. Our president claims he only gets 4 hours of sleep, But no, and so when Stockton told me that, you get complacent. This is what you got to do. All this now is starting to fall into place. And it goes back to the highs and lows. It seemed like I rode the lows down like it was a roller coaster. This is fun. And the climb up's hard, but when you get to the top, it was doable, And so I think I'll be able to coax my kids into, keep it more like this instead of up and down. But it's the ups and downs that gives you the, that desire to keep going and to push through. And so Stockton really did a good job of that, of, telling me you got to remain hungry, dude. You can't get complacent. You can't feel bad. It's that mentality. And the more of these Netflix episodes come out of Mamba mentality of, Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, you see that in so many athletes.
Yeah.
In my deal, rodeo is kind of its own sport, just as far as the different things you can do to prepare for it. And those guys that play professional football, baseball, you think about how many college football players there are a year.
Mm-hmm.
And about 200 of them go on to pro.
Yeah.
There's thousands turn down. And, rodeo's a little different. But at the same time, you also need at least 25 acres. You at least need some land, to keep the horses and stuff. But so same mentality there, just as far as that drive to keep going. But he did. That helped me a lot. And then, like I said, I finished out my senior year of college, went in the region again. So I was a 2-time college region champ. And then I went to the college finals. Didn't have the college finals I wanted to, but keep in mind, by this point now, I'm rodeoing pretty serious professionally. I'm not on a permit no more. I'm on a card that it really doesn't say this, but in the fine print it says if you win enough money, you go to the NFR, kid.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big boy card.
Yep.
And so
how old were you when you got your card?
The first year I got it, I got my permit when I was 19. When I was 20, I had my rookie card, but I didn't really, 19, 20 permit, 20, 21, my rookie card. I didn't get I learned a valuable lesson my rookie year. I started out right away, college kid, trying to go to a lot of rodeos that I didn't really have no business going to. And the good thing about the PRCA is they will let you rodeo on credit. If you owe them money, they'll let you make payments to them or they'll let you pay them. But you can enter up to a month, and then when those first dues, those first set of fees come due, you got to pay them. If you don't pay them, you can't enter no more rodeos, but you can continue to go to all the rodeos you're entered at, which is good in a sense that it allows guys to keep playing, but it's also maybe not the best in the sense that, you can get behind. Yeah. You can get behind. And that's kind of what happened to me. I went to a lot of rodeos: Denver, Colorado, Rapid City, South Dakota, Fort Worth, Texas, Lincoln, Nebraska, San Angelo, Texas. All this is in a pretty short amount of time, January and the 1st of February, and I didn't win nothing. and these places aren't close to Alva, Oklahoma. So now the travel's gotten high, and I did. I owed the PRCA some money, and I needed to get back to college. School was most important, and so I went all the way until July before I got them paid off, where I could enter more rodeos. So my rookie year wasn't really one that, I would tell a lot of people to copy what I did that year. I did learn a lot, and from that, I've told a lot of people, hey, maybe don't go to this one. It's okay if you miss this one or that one. And so then my second year on the I guess the regular card, it starts out, it's going good. Like I said, I'm with Stockton, Drew, and Cody. I got a click. It's going really good. College finals doesn't go like I want to, but it don't matter. Now I'm done with college rodeo. Paid for my schooling, got a degree, got a diploma, but now I'm rodeoing professionally. And I go on all summer long, Reno, Nevada, Spooner, Wisconsin, Springdale, Arkansas, and everywhere in between, Utah, Wyoming, Washington, Oregon. And that was the first time I'd went that far. And once again, it was Stockton. He kept pushing me. He kind of got down and got broke. I'd bear down and win some money. And that was what he kept telling me, hey, man, quit slacking off, off. And without really knowing what I was doing, I almost made the NFR that year. Yeah, I did. I missed it by like 6,000 or 7,000. And you think, well, that seems like a lot of money. Well, if you look back at all the barriers that I broke at rodeos, just being impatient, I could come up with 20-something thousand. But there's also some things behind the scenes that you say, that was a God thing. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I didn't, because if I would have made the finals that year, I think my life would look completely different. Because 12 went that way. It was close, but I didn't make it. I finished college the next year as the assistant coach. They gave me a fifth year as far as paid for my school, and Northwestern did. And I got to be around there and practice with all the college guys, still rodeo with Stockton, practice with Stockton. But at this time, we're kind of starting to have a little change in heart as far as Stockton is really wanting to stay home more. He's wanting to, really focus on the college coaching, not rodeo professionally as much. And so I'm starting to move rigs. Well, now you're sleeping in a trailer, with, people you don't really know that good. Or, I'd kind of got to be buddies with those other guys. And so everybody knew their cot was, and everybody knew, the order of taking showers and stuff like that. Well, now I'm starting to move rigs, and it's really starting to become unraveled. Like I'm not winning that much. Now I'm kind of starting to owe some folks. I'm 23 years old. I've got a diploma, but I ain't got just a bank account full of money. And so, once again, that seems to be my roadblock, is this finance thing. And I finished out that year trying to rodeo, and I like I said, I owed a couple people, fuel bills, which they're great. They're, hey, man, we'll float you if you promise to pay me back. Yes, I promise. And that's one thing I always tell people. I might owe you money, but unless I quit answering the phone, I'm good for it. I'm good. You know what I mean? As soon as I quit answering that phone, you might want to double check. But no, and so that was always people. They gave me grace. I think this kid's gonna. People vouch for him. And that speaks volumes too, as far as what people will do for you. If you're not a blooming idiot, if you don't,
man of integrity.
Well, yeah, I guess just don't display ignorance.
Yeah.
And not that I'm just a guy going around, hey, let me borrow 100, but there's some of these rodeos you'll go to, and or jackpots we'll go to, and your fees will be $500, and then a guy wants to put up $1,000 on the side. I don't just keep that kind of cash with me. Yeah. And my buddy Tyler Pearson, several times, he looked at me, I got you, whatever. And that's awesome. People believe in you, and that helps you to believe in yourself. And so, but at this time, I owe people. The rodeos are starting to slow down for the year. The cutoff for the NFR's passed. And that was actually the first year I came to Bonifay.
Really?
2013. I came to Bonifay, Florida with Tyler Pearson, Quinn Campbell. And I didn't have any luck. I didn't win nothing.
Were you still living in Oklahoma?
I was still living in Oklahoma. And I'd always heard about Bonifay, the rodeo on the grass. It's one of the biggest in the Southeast. I go down there. I didn't win nothing. Man, I'm not impressed with this Bonifay at all. I was mad. What am I doing in Florida? I'm supposed to be back in Oklahoma working. At this time I'd got a job. I'm paying this debt off. I shouldn't have came down here. Man, it was great. It was, because that was when I, kind of decided I wanted to rodeo with Tyler. Tyler at the time lived in Louisiana. And it's kind of right here where my life, my mom's life, and everything we knew took an odd twist. It was during this time, and really probably a year leading up to this time, 2013, my grandfather started to get dementia. Or we're noticing the signs of it. Called sundowners, and it leads to dementia and Alzheimer's. And I remember Mom, calling this a new challenges. We lived in the same yard, still on the 25 acres right there in Robertsdale. And doing the best we could. And he's still very functional, and he's getting around and everything. But you're noticing signs. Your daddy mentioned something to me today at the cafe, maybe what they might tell my mom. And so you're not really sure how to handle this. Well, then it really becomes more serious. And once again, finances. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but to put a dementia patient in an assisted living home, because it requires a little more assistance, pretty expensive. And so we come up with a grand plan, my mom, my sister, and myself, that we'll just pull together, and Mom worked from home. And so, you can be there, and just all you had to do at this time was just keep a close eye on him. Got some funny stories of a dementia patient. But and so I told her, look, this year rodeo was a bust. Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to go work in the oil field. I've got a friend. It ended up being Tyler Pearson, but I tell Mom, I've got a friend, Tyler, and she knew him, that he had worked a little bit in the oil field, and he had a connection. It turns out that's kind of all you need to do that kind of work. And I was thinking, like, going to West Texas or something, working on an oil rig, making this big money that they always talk about making, pay everybody back that I owe, help Mom, with this new deal with called him Pawpaw, and once again, save up a little nest egg to go rodeo again. It's a great plan, right? Yeah, it's a foolproof plan. It's going to work. And so I tell my boss in Oklahoma, hey, this is what I need to do. He says, yeah, no problem. But, before I leave Oklahoma, I've qualified for the Prairie Circuit Finals. Mm-hmm. And, once again, Cowboy, one last rodeo, you got to go to it. Finals we really enjoy because there's only 12 guys. Yeah. Most rodeos you go to, 50, 60, 70 guys. The finals, once you get down to the short round of the finals, 12 guys, that your odds of winning are just increased, even if you don't perform great. But at the Prairie Circuit Finals, you better be, on your A game, because a lot of great bulldoggers come from that area. And Stockton, my coach, is one of them. And we go to the finals, and we're competing, and I'll be dang if it didn't go good for me, but it went even better for Stockton, old coach. He wins the year-end and the average. He kind of stuck it on us at the finals. Well, they take the top two to the Ram National Circuit Finals. Back then it was called the Dodge National Circuit Finals. It's called the Ram National Circuit Finals. Now they call it the NFR Open. But anyways, nonetheless, it's hosted in Guthrie, Oklahoma. That year it was. And Stockton did good enough that he claimed both spots. Well, in that situation, they dropped down to number 2 in the standings. Oh, Kyle. That was me, I remember let old coach teach you something else, So they dropped down in the standings, and I get to go also. This is in April. So here it is. The finals is done. It's October, November. Now I'm deciding to go home, this new job deal, going to West Texas. Tyler calls, hey, I got you set up. You need to go talk to this person. So the office for this particular company is in Louisiana, close to Tyler's house. I go to it, and they tell me, your first job is going to be in Pace, Florida. And I went, what? I'm like,
not too far from
well, and I was set up for per diem and everything. Yeah. Because I'll use my Alabama address. Well, Pace, Florida is close enough in the distance. I didn't get no per diem that first job, and I only worked there for like 7 days at some chemical plant in Pace. Mm-hmm. Only worked there for like 5 or 7 days, and the job was done, and you leave until they call you with another job. And I'm like, man, this ain't going much better. This wasn't that much money, and I mean, I'm already done. Well, they call back like a week later and say, hey, got another gig if you'd like it. Yeah, where at? This time it's in Plaquemine, Louisiana. which is on the other side of Baton Rouge, go right across Mississippi River and hang a left. I did it every morning for like a month. And I worked at a chemical plant down there. And the guy that I was working for at that time that was running that crew, his son rodeoed too. And he was starting to steer wrestle. Well, every afternoon we were practicing at Pearson's house in Independence, Louisiana. It's like an hour drive. Had a little car I used to make that drive every day. And so the boss, he understood the rodeo, and he might let me leave a little early or something. Sometimes when he didn't, it was no big deal. But you got to help my son tonight too. Perfect. Yep. He knew about Guthrie. He knew about the Ram Circuit Finals and this opportunity I had coming up in April. So February through March, I'm working, and he's talking about it, and he's hoping it goes good and hoping this, but at the same time, don't short me on my hours. And I'm kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing? But every day, Tyler, very similar as far as sometimes his delivery as Stockton was. Once again, I think I needed that, and Tyler was pretty stern on, we're going to do this, we're going to do it this way. And I needed that. I did. And so every day he'd call me on the way home, where you at? And I'd be stuck in traffic on the bridge. I'm coming. All right, I got the steers loaded and the horse saddled. So now Tyler is taking this place as far as horses for me to ride. Like I said, I had a car. I didn't have a truck and trailer. Just finished college, and about like every college kid, I'm broke. And the dilemma now back home with Pawpaw. So how we're going to make all this work? Get a job, obviously, but don't forget your dream of rodeoing. And you're so close, and you've got these finals made. And so every day we're practicing and putting myself in situations in the practice pen that would mimic competition and a tough scenario. And, man, I go to those finals, and I'll be dang if I didn't win it. Won a truck, won like $10,000. And I remember my boss, he was so pumped. He called me. He said, "You're not coming back to work Monday, are you?" Nope. I said, "Nope, I'm not. I was done." And I didn't. And, I got me a new truck and went on that year to make the NFR. And I won second at the NFR behind Luke Branquino. That was the last year, his last gold buckle, his fifth in 2014. And here's this kid from Robertsdale, Alabama, won $80-something thousand, man. You know what I'm saying? And paid everybody back. Mm-hmm. And, now's the new thing at home, but it's working. And this whole time I had this idea of I'm going to do it with the 9 to 5. And there's nothing wrong with that. And still today, we'll talk about that in a minute. I work when I'm home, for my father-in-law's company, but rodeo is not your normal 9 to 5. We normally do our work 7 at night till the rodeo's done, and then you drive to another one. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we get accused of being bums, rodeo bums. But my mind, I was gonna accomplish this hurdle that we had this way. Yeah. And I didn't want to give everybody the cold shoulder, because I could have and just rodeo and keep it and do it all myself. And my mom drove me to so many junior rodeos growing up, and made sure you got the practices and robbed Peter to pay Paul, because rodeo's expensive, in the junior and high school ranks. We're going to do this, and you are going to do it with me type thing. Mm. And then that was a lesson I learned. That's one of those peaks. I got at the top, thought I got it figured out. This is where we're going to do it. And this was one of the best times I learned how to pray, because I remember thinking, I can do this. Mom, we can do this. Give it to me. And I remember telling her that, and that was dumb. That was. I should have said, give it to him. Mm-hmm. And by that I mean just the load that comes with it, the stress, she'd call me 2 o'clock in the morning to talk to my granddaddy, because he'd be up walking around the house. That's just the way it is with the sundowners and whatnot. And so, into my professional career, I'm making money left over right. By this time, me and Randa had crossed paths, and we're dating and talking about getting married. And, it seems like you got the deal at home with Pawpaw figured out. So once again, I got this, man. I know what I'm doing. Give it to me. And that wasn't a smart thing to say, because it's almost like at times, the Lord says, okay, we'll see how you handle it. It's kind of like Peter when he steps out of that boat, and when you're focused, You're walking on
Good.
water, and when you're not,
That's
you know,
when
you
you-
sunk. Or also, you can add so much on that you sink. And that was dumb because I learned a short amount of time after that, hey, we're going to give this here. You know, we're going to give this to God because that's all you can do in those situations. And so my first year rodeoing professionally, really would have been my third year rodeoing professionally, but it was the first year I got to go and stay hooked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't get broke and come home. I started out broke, had a goal for those finals, worked for them, accomplished it. I'll be dang. Didn't end up second, ended up first. Got a truck. I didn't have a vehicle. I did, but it was a car. I had a truck and now money. And then I got the girl too. And so it's all looking good. And then I roll into 2015 and I'm rodeoing him once again. I'm 25 now and I'm knocking it out of the park, man. I'm winning everywhere I go. Tyler's horse working great. Me and him got a great relationship. And rodeo all year long, qualify for the national finals once again, and then Rand and I get married in November. And really it was like 2 weeks before the NFR. But yeah, we
When
get
y'all got
married.
married?
Yeah, at our house we live in now, right now in the front yard under a magnolia tree. And the day after our honeymoon, I owe her a better one because we left and we went to Panama City. There's nothing wrong with Panama City, but we went down to Panama City at a pretty cheap hotel on the beach, and you know, it didn't matter. We had fun, and but that was one day, and then the next day she was teaching at Bonifay. She's got to go back to school, and I was headed to Davie, Florida, for the Southeastern Circuit Finals. We go to Davie, compete at Davie. She flies down and watches me at Davie. And then on the way back, we're driving home, and I drop her off here at the Bonifay, or here at Westfield, her house. And I leave. I remember I pull off, and my brother-in-law Neil and my mother-in-law Dallas are all still kind of cleaning up from the wedding, and I'm not sure where I fit in here. But I know I've got to leave because, listen to this, 4 days later, I've got to be in California to run the steers that are going to the National Finals Rodeo. So a lot of new stuff, you know, is going on for me in November and December before the NFR even starts. And I go out there, and, man, kind of similar to the Shawnee and stuff. You know, we're in California for a few days getting the steers ready for the rodeo, and then we show up in Vegas. And I've just left the previous year of being the Reserve World Champ. You know, I just got married, man. I'm the big kid on block again. And it might have been the worst thing could have happened. The first round, I win second, win like 26,000. And I'm like, man, once again, I've got this figured out. This is so easy. This is going good. And it was one of my worst NFRs ever. Like, I don't know. I didn't win much money after that. And it didn't end good with the horse situation. Just we had a horse come unraveled out there, which is really tough for those horses to stay put together in that building. You got 19,000 people sitting on top of you, cameras in your face, and they want to and they want to run that production so fast. And we're on our way home, and I remember Pearson tells me, he said, I want to get a horse that is good, that anybody can ride, that'll last, the crowd won't bother it. This one we got, it's not going to cut it. What do you think about that? Man, whatever you think. I just got married. I didn't win that much money at the finals. And the finals is where we really get into the green. Yeah. And by that, I mean our profit margin. Yeah. You know, throughout the year, you kind of break even. If you have a big win, like 2019, I won $100,000 out of Calgary. That was huge. But for the most part, you just kind of shuffle a lot of money around, pay all the bills. And at the end of the summer, you'll have your $20,000, $30,000 set aside. But where you really do good is Vegas. You know, that if you can get there broke even or in the green a little bit, you really do good at Vegas. And so, you know, with it not going good in 15, I was just kind of, I don't really need to spend a lot of money right now. I don't need to do this, do that. Well, Pearson's pretty adamant about getting this horse, and he's shopping around. And by that, I mean just calling guys we know, you know, not necessarily a website you can go to find a steer wrestling horse. But, you know, we're looking and putting the word out that we're looking for one, and we find one. And Now in steps a horse called Scooter. And I'll be dang, when we got him, you wouldn't think it just because the way he looked. He'd been on a ranch in North Dakota, turned out for a few months. He had already been a steer wrestling horse, and they had done well on him up there. A lot of guys had. But we buy him sight unseen for like $65,000 or something. It was a lot of money. That's a lot of money now. It was a lot of money then, especially when you didn't.
Yeah.
And I remember Tyler called me, and he's like, I can't do this by myself. Will you split him with me? Man, there's no way. I can't come up with 30-something grand. Just got married. I didn't have a good finals, but I had that truck that I won, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, let me go see. And I'll be dang, truck paid for. Well, then you go to the bank, and, hey, I got to buy a horse. Some equity in this truck. Yeah, you got a lot of equity in it. I need every bit of it, And so I got every bit of it, and Tyler ended up financing a little bit more for me. But you want to talk about one of the biggest blessings that horse was. I mean, it was no time, and he had paid us our money, our investment back. And then I remember a guy told me one time, he said, it must be like having an ATM with you. Because everybody that rode him won, and that's not just saying me and Tyler. That was, Wagasback, Ty Erickson, Clayton Haas, Tyler Pearson, which Tyler owned him with me. So many guys won so much money. Justin Schaefer 1 year at Salt Lake City, $50,000. Timmy Sparing won $50,000 at Houston on him. And now this is all spread out over the next 2017, 18, 19. We're just killing it on him. And 2017, Tyler Pearson won the world. That was the first time I got to Hayes at the finals. I Hayes for a gold buckle. I think Scooter won that year like $500,000 between four of us. That was huge. And I got a cut of that. Not only did I get to save some of the money, so now my whole story has been borrowing horses, trying to make my own when you can, but none of them really amounted to much. And we buy one, and there's no shame in this, and we're able to take him to the next level with Tyler's Hazen horse on the other side and the consistency of that. Man, now not only do I got my own horse, but I've got my own horse that is everything. And he went on to win. He was Horse of the Year twice. Got 2 trophies in the house that I'll always cherish for that. The friendship that came with that from Tyler and the people that, you came encounter with because they needed your horse to ride. Even the ones you told no. There comes a time when you got to tell guys, we got 4 guys on this rodeo. I can't put another one on him. And that sucks, but that's part of it, but something always comes from it. So the avenue that really opened up whenever Scooter came, stepped foot on the trailer was, that was huge. That changed me from being a mount guy and, riding whatever the guy I was with had to now I have a share in one of the best ones going. And not only are we riding him, winning on him, but other people are asking to ride him and winning on him. And so that, that changed a lot for us. Because that was also the year that my firstborn was born, 2017. So now comes a new expense, right? Yeah. Also a write-off, but a new expense. And so, it once again furthered my, this dream now becomes a job. Now becomes I am paying the bills with this. This is an avenue for a really good living for now. Like I said, there'll come a day when it's not my main source of income. But this is working. Like people think you're crazy if I told them, but same with that mentality of putting in the same amount of hours as the janitor. Something good's going to come from it. If you're putting in the work, I told you a while ago, I learned a lot about my prayer life through all this. But if you're putting in the work, it's got to. You just can't give up. It's got to come.
How do you now select and train your horses that you use to compete with?
Yeah, that's a good question. One, it's either a customer's horse. I have to set my price. A lot of them say no. A lot of them, some of them say yeah. But I look for. I used to papers and breedings used to not bother me, or I didn't think it was nothing. Either the horse had it or they didn't. But now the breeding game has changed so much. My mother-in-law helps me a lot, Dallas DeWeese, with that. She's always got good horses coming, up, raising them. I always thought it took way too long. I want one ready to go now. She said, there's a process, and there is. And then two, might be a barrel horse that didn't make it, might be a team roping horse that didn't make it. But I always try to tell them when they get to my event, if they did something previous to steer wrestling, I'm the bottom of the barrel, because I break all rules of training one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to stay behind the cow. I want them to go by the cow.
Yeah.
I don't want them to go slow. I need them to go fast. Training horses, especially in calf roping, team roping, you can go so slow. You can slow it down. You can get a slow calf. Steer wrestling, I never want that horse to go slow.
Yeah, it's got to be fast.
Yeah, because if he learns that he can go slow, well, when I'm at Boniface Rodeo, which is a large arena, Boniface got a large arena, and I get across that steer's back, and he decides to go slow because it's okay. Well, now I just won fifth at Boniface instead of first. And people say, well, that's not that big. That could be a half a second.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It really could be. 4 flat could win first,
Mm-hmm.
and fifth could be 4-5 or 4-4. And people say, well, what's that? What's the difference there? About $2,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
For real.
Big difference.
And so, yeah, that would be it. Now it's would be genetics and the build.
Yeah.
What
would you say is some of the common misconceptions about rodeo or just steer wrestling in general?
I think it would be that it's a weekend hobby. And it's okay to perfectly think that because for a lot of people it has to be. But I tell everybody a lot of times that we're fancy carnies, man. We just travel around. We travel around from one city to the next. But you look at the payout of these rodeos. I've got a chance in April to win $1 million at the American. I've got a chance next week in Houston to win $65,000. That's not chump change anymore.
Yeah.
Used to it was, but what a tire costs now. Go down here to Sun's Tire and price you one, or engine in a truck, and so
fuel.
Yeah, fuel. The pay had to go up, but once again, here comes the sponsors to help with the expense. But I think a misconception would be one, I don't think anybody would look at what I do and say that's a sissy sport. I've never heard that one. They might say them guys ain't very smart, but but a misconception would definitely be that's a hobby or that's a thing they do on the ranch. And steer wrestling, I hope nobody steer wrestles on the ranch. Get a rope them.
Yeah.
If you're going to steer wrestle, do it in an arena. Boniface is an exception with the grass. Try to do it in a disked up arena. But yeah, I think that would be one of the big misconceptions is this guy just does this on the weekends.
So you mentioned the American. You just came off that big win for the East Regionals. Tell me about that.
Man, that's awesome, man. The American, I think, has done a good job of breaking the United States up into these regions, the East region, the Central region, and then the Western region. And then they take the top 5 from each of those regions, go to Dallas, so that'd be 15 guys, and we'll compete on April 11th. Us 15 will compete for, I think it's like 25 or 30 grand. And then the top 5 from those 15 go over to April 12th, the next day, to compete against the top 5 from the NFR. So when the NFR was over, they capped it. Those top 5 guys were already seeded in. And so when we compete on April 12th, the winner of that, if it's one of the NFR guys, he gets $100,000. If it's one of the guys that came through the contender, it's $1 million. Reason being the contender, you go against 90 guys, down to 15 guys, down to the NFR, which is no easy feat to be in the top 5. I'm definitely not, trying to say that that's any of a lighter way to do it, but they knew they were in December, and so they're just kind of sitting there licking their chops, waiting on the rest of us. I've been fortunate enough I've been to the American both ways. I've been in through the NFR, and I've been in now through the contender. Would love to see it go good. Either way, $100,000 is nice. Don't get me wrong, but
$1 million,
1.1 million, man. That's life changing money.
Yeah.
I know Uncle Sam will get his cut.
Oh yeah.
But that's pretty big for a small town kid.
Mm-hmm. That's April 11th and 12th.
April 11th and 12th, yeah, and it's right there in MetLife Stadium, I think is what it's called, where the Rangers play in Dallas. It used to be across the street at Jerry Jones' house over there where the Cowboys play, but now they have, a heck of a show afterwards. I think they have Riley Green and all these concerts, and last year, or year before last, Cody Johnson. So it's a heck of a weekend, a rodeo and Western, themed deal, and they give away a lot of money. A lot of money.
More towards your family life, how do you and Randa manage the dynamics of raising children and your rodeo career when you're out on the road?
That's tough. That's tough, man. She's special. She really is. And I'm glad she's not here saying this, so here to hear me say this, because she'd think I made it up. But you can't take I'm definitely not saying she's not normal, but you can't take a normal woman and tell her, hey, you're gonna be with this guy. You're gonna have 3 kids, and during the crazy years of those 3 kids' life, he's going to be in and out a lot. Mm-hmm. He's going to be at rodeos. He's going to be on TV, doing good, doing bad, interviews, sometimes maybe getting not laughed at, but, I mean, there's times I laugh at myself when, and a lot of guys, some of the old men I go to church with, they always tell me, we saw you last night. Why'd you miss that steer? I promise I didn't mean to. It was not in the plan. But yeah, so you tell her to take a woman and tell her this is his lifestyle. Do you support it, and are you prepared to spend a lot of nights by yourself? And man, she's a blessing. And social media, I love it. It's great. A lot of reasons, because I laugh at it, and you see a lot of these pages and these people get on there, and they've got their meal prepping. And I think that's great. I wish I could do it, but then they're doing this, and even the baseball life. A lot of parents, we drug our kids in from baseball practice, and they had to get up and go to school the next day. My kids have slept in the back seat of trucks, bleachers. You know what I mean? Had horses, just dang near run them over, and I mean, what a life, And so when I see those, I can always kind of giggle a little bit and look at Randa. I said, if they only knew,
Mm-hmm.
But once again, kind of like the sponsors, winning helps. If you're not winning, she might be like, all right, maybe come on home now. But when you're winning, once again, it pays the bills, and it also aligns with her family and what they did. Mm-hmm. Her granddaddy, Foy Reynolds, he produced Bonifay one time, the Foy Reynolds Cattle Company over there in Westville. You hear so many people here in the town of Bonifay talk about, that family and maybe working for that family. Yeah. And my father-in-law, Ronnie Dewey's, and he's a good man. I always tell them they didn't deserve me. But, same thing. And her family helps so much, my family when they can. We live right there by her family, so they help so much. But my mother-in-law, Dallas, pretty interesting story as far as her success in the arena, training horses, giving lessons. And so Dallas gets it. Ronnie gets it. And that helps that Randa grew up around that, because Randa gets it.
She understood.
And so that's huge. Yeah, 100%. I'm telling you, I've had buddies whose wives weren't really used to it, and they don't last long. But like I say, the winning helps. Cinch Jeans and Shirts is one of my oldest sponsors. I love their product. I love representing their company. Mm-hmm. They also keep my kids in clothes. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we do put that into perspective. Seminole Feed. I love feeding Seminole Feed. Seminole Feed is very good to me and my family. You got to put all that into play. And that's one thing we always talk about every year at the beginning of the year. Me and the wife and now the kids, because they understand. Because Tripp wants me to make the finals. That's just his goal. I want you to be at the NFR, Daddy. I want you to be at the NFR, Daddy. Seminole Feed helps with that. Cinch Jeans, help with that. If you were to sit down and pencil it all out, I would love to visit with Dave Ramsey. I think I could make his head spin so fast. Because when you sit down and pencil it all out and figure it out, it works. It makes sense. Yeah. It does. Once again, I'm comparing everything to a 9 to 5. The man that owns a lawn cutting service, is the janitor, is a teacher. Yeah. When you put pencil to paper, do that. You say, okay, I might be gone. I'm probably gone from home 180, 200 days a year. But what about the traveling salesman? What about the truck driver? Yeah. And so I'm getting to do something that's really fun, something I love to do, and it takes work, a lot of hard work and dedication. And it's like that saying, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And so now you're looking at late hours in the practice pen at the house, and so but it's a juggle. Life's a balance, isn't it? And I've had to learn to offer myself a lot of grace. There are times, man, I didn't tuck them in tonight. No, I didn't. But the jeans and the boots and the the took him to school the next morning. You know, everybody's life looks different, I think. You know, as far as that,
absolutely.
we almost seem to try to commercialize the mother and father this is what you do, and and that's
so
great.
Structured.
Yeah, you know, and that's great. That is, but well, we're lucky to live in this nation where you can kind of choose to do it.
Yeah.
And mine just happened to fall right into what I've always done, and then marrying Randa and getting to be around here now in Westville ties right into what I'll probably always do, and that's with the cattle company there at Reynolds.
What does your involvement with the cattle company look like from day to day in your off season, I guess you'd say?
Yeah, and I hope they all hear this because I tell them I'm the next. I'm kidding. I'm in the back, man. I want to be back there. I want to be the lowest on the totem pole while I'm rodeoing because I want those guys to know, you know, they are there every day. Or like Burt Long, man, he, born and raised right here in Bonifay and worked for him for a long time. He's going to all these sale barns, Dothan, Brundage. My father-in-law goes down to Lake City. Gary Tinsley goes up to Leadahatchee. You know, we've even got buyers at sale barns down in Okeechobee, Arcadia. You know, so you work all these sale barns, and that's one of the deals that helps me to realize, you know, what I do, you're going to be gone sometimes because I get to be involved with these truck drivers that bring the cattle to us, to the buyers that go to the sale barns. You know, my father-in-law that has to, you know, be gone for a couple days to buy some calves off a ranch in South Florida. And when you put all that into perspective, it kind of helps me to okay the rodeo thing. But what I've learned now with this is, and I get me some caps made up, Foy Reynolds Cattle Company caps. I should have brought some to give y'all. So I'll get you some.
Yeah.
But and when I'm rodeoing, one of the deals rodeo is you're tied into is the Western lifestyle. You get out there, and a lot of these rodeos, there will be stock show and rodeo, and there's people out there that graze cattle, that feed cattle, and that's what the Foy Reynolds Cattle Company does. We're a broker. I can provide you cattle from the Southeast. I'm an avenue, and so if you knew my mom and my dad, you know I've got the gift of gab. I got it honest. But that's something that I'm good at is going around, hey, man, you want to buy some cattle? Well, no. Where are you from? Florida? No. 10 minutes later, they'll come back and want to talk, you know. Yeah. And I kind of can do it in a joking way, but that's what I always tell them my position at Reynolds is I'm a salesman. But no, I love working in the back, and I get to be horseback, you know, and to me, I firmly believe that helps me stay sharp on my riding. Yeah. One of the biggest deals in rodeo is, you got to be able to tackle and steer good. You need to be an athlete and big muscles and all this, that, and the other. But if you can't ride a horse, you ain't going to get to him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or the horse ain't going to stand there in the box. You're going to break the barrier. So horsemanship is probably 80% of what I do. In working at Reynolds, I get to be on horseback. I'm pushing cows, you know, and I got a deal I do up there. If you ever fix a gate or something, you give it a Bramer test because these Bramer cattle are wild.
Yeah, crazy.
You know, but I also know, going back from my raising, my great uncle, and being on these, working for these people, and they're handling their cows, he handled them real quietly, softly, gentle. If you give a cow time to think, she'll go where you want her to go, son. Let her see the hole, give her time. And people think I'm crazy. That plays so much into my hazing. A good hazer never has to touch the steer. I just use the sight of my horse to direct that steer where I want him to go. I'll ask you before we go in there, you want him left, right, or straight? Most of them want them straight, and I'm not saying easy, but it is because I do it so much. You know, and we do it with Bramers. You know, they're tough to haze, man. These old Mexican steers at these rodeos, it's not that hard. But it also helps me, you know, back to your question about training horses, it helps me to train these horses. Yeah. That is where I can slow them down. You know, that is where I can still get them around it, that we're not in the arena, so going slow is okay. Yeah. But I can really work on maybe some footwork, you know, some control, some signals I'm sending them that we're getting crossed up in the arena. I can take them over there. You know, I'm getting paid to work, and I'm getting paid to ride the horse. So win-win, man. I'm pushing cows, something I love to do. You know, who'd have ever thought that I'd make a living doing that? You might hear somebody say, well, one day you'll be too old. Yeah, I probably will. Now, maybe I'll fall over dead when that day comes. I don't know. But, you know, good. So it goes hand in hand. It really does. It really does. And I tell a lot of people I can take one that maybe is trying to come unraveled or is getting worked up, and I can go there. Because it's small pins and it's lanes that you're pushing them down, and those horses can't get away from me, and I don't have to be hard on them.
Yeah.
You know, they're hard on themselves, and then they understand maybe I should listen to this guy on my back.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about it is, you know, I get to do it every single day. I'm not just there, you know, to fill in to be a body. I'm also, you know, putting some miles on a customer's horse. They're not going to get that exposure anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I can offer them that. And so, yeah, it goes hand in hand. But, yeah, that's my position is I'm lowest on the totem pole at Reynolds. I'll stay there until I'm done rodeoing.
That's good to hear there's still horseback, too, because there's
Yep.
a lot of places that are
Don't even
going away from that now.
Yep.
Genuine.
It is, you know, and guys lose a touch of riding. Four-wheelers are pretty common. I get it. Four-wheeler don't eat. You know, you ain't got to clean up after a four-wheeler.
Yep.
But at the same time, I remember telling my nephew one time, we were talking about the efficiency. What's more efficient, the horse or the four-wheeler? You know, four-wheeler only costs a gallon of gas a week, maybe, you know, and this, that, and the other. But the horse is constantly gaining equity. Four-wheeler is losing value.
That's true.
If you think about
I've
it.
never thought of it like that.
You know, and so though the horse is eating, you got to pay for feed and hay. You know, you can manage that because he's constantly gaining equity.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can take let's use 5,000 example. At 5,000, you go buy a four-wheeler, I'll go buy a horse, and in 1 year, let's see what you get for your four-wheeler and what I can get for my horse.
Yeah.
And so. But once again, man, that takes time. You know, the four-wheeler, you can jump on it and go. Some of these cold mornings, you jump on that colt and go, you can be laying in the middle of your back because he bugged. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. Once again, there's that balance. Me, I choose the horse. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me in a good seat, keeps me riding good. And that ultimately, in the arena, is where I make my most money. Yeah. You know, so it's a no-brainer for me.
How has the sport of rodeo evolved since you maybe were in high school or college rodeo?
So much. It has. And now it's more mainstream. And when I was telling my story a little bit, I kind of left out a year 2016 because that was I did not pro rodeo that year. I was in an association called the ERA, and it was a group of us kind of went against pro rodeo, not in a bad way, but just in a different view, a different idea. Is that deal now? It's called the WCRA, and it's a thriving association that kind of piggybacks other rodeos, but it's more avenues for a lot of money. The first WCRA they ever had, I won it, and I've got the checks in Trips Room. One of the big checks, you hold up, was $25,000. That's life, not life changing money, but that's huge. I was 28 when I won that. It is, and so through that period, that kind of dissolved and it turned into what it is, and we were allowed to go back to the PRCA. People can say what they want. The PRCA has shifted. Used to, I get it. Not every rodeo now anybody can go enter, but a lot of these bigger venues, they kind of want to mainstream the top talent.
Yeah.
And people say, well, I can't get into that one. Yes, you can. Practice. Mm-hmm. Get inside this top 40, top 50. Well, I got to be gone all year long to do that. I do it. Mm-hmm. There's nobody stopping you. And so it's went from anybody can play to now anybody can play, but at these really big ones, serious, really good ones, you kind of got to have not credentials, but I agree with that. A lot of people might watch this and say, I don't agree with that. I do. I do. It makes a guy here's a good example, and for the Bonifay committee, if any of them watch this and hear this, Tyler Wagasback. Tyler Wagasback is going to be at Houston. Houston pays $65,000. He's going to be there because the money matters. Tyler Wagasback shows up at your rodeo, you're doing something right. Mm-hmm. The money now matters so much because, and two, they limit us. We can only go to 80 rodeos. Well, if I can only go to 80 rodeos, I'm going to pick, obviously, either the biggest 80, from the biggest all the way down to and where it may lie, or like I do, I pick the biggest, probably about 60 I can get to, and then I go to 20 in the Southeast because I want to make the Southeast Circuit Finals also. Yep. It's a great system they have. It's called the circuit system. If you go to the designated amount of rodeos you have to go to qualify for the circuit finals and win the money to be in the top 12 in your circuit, then you go to the circuit finals, and that was a deal I went to back in November, and I won the circuit again. And so now in July, I'll go to the Ram National Circuit Finals and have a chance to win upwards of 30,000 a Polaris Ranger, and all that money counts for the world standing. So there's your stepping stone system once again, and that makes your smaller rodeos all the way up to your medium rodeos, all the way up to the your Bonifay, Montgomery. It puts all those on the same page as far as I want to be at these, and these. Well, now a rodeo like Bonifay, you can sell it. Hey, Saturday night, Stetson Wright is going to be at Bonifay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. People are starting to know who these guys are. Yeah. You can almost sell jerseys, and maybe not, and some might watch this like, yeah, right. That was the main idea and focus with the ERA was how do we mainstream guys? How do you become a household name? Mm-hmm. Well, it'll never be a household name. Why not? Why not? Mm-hmm. And so it's changed in the fact, one, social media, exposure, and then two, the money and what they require us to do to get to the bigger rodeos that pay the big money. It keeps you going. It keeps you, all right, now I've got a full schedule. I need to be at this one. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is the last weekend in September, and it's a big tour finale. And they've only had it for 2 years now, and I've yet to qualify for it because they only take the top 12. And the way the tour standings work, there's only so many rodeos that are tour rodeos. And, man, I want to be at that one. Once again, you can get some money set back for an addition on the house. When when you're talking about winning 20 and 30 grand, that's big.
What role does faith play in your daily life, both professionally and family? And how do you fit that into your day when you're out on the road and the demands of rodeo and all?
Well, I'll answer that one backwards. It's everything, number one. And he tells us to go and multiply, to go and make fishers of men, right? Fishermen of men. Yep. And when you're out there rodeoing, what better time to be an example? A lot of guys, especially in rodeo, and it's almost a male mentality. Yeah, you ain't going to tell me. And my father-in-law says it best, well, live it. If you can't tell him, I'm not good with reading Bible verses. Don't, but live it. Mm-hmm. People see your actions. And if your integrity, your character, if it all lines up with what you're saying, it matters a lot.
It makes sense to them.
100%. And so, like I said, to answer your question backwards, that's first and foremost when I'm out there, just to do your very best. Yeah, you're going to stumble. Yeah, you're going to have a hiccup. Yeah, you're going to hit your thumb with the hammer. Yeah. But Kyle just had a bad day. You might hear him say that more than, this dude's fake. Yeah. Be real with your faith. But it's everything. And I realized that at a young age. I remember telling a preacher one time, we were talking about some stuff. I think we were actually on Bonifay golf course and just having a day golfing with him. And I remember telling him, I don't have a road to Damascus salvation story. Yeah. And I used to find guilt in that because I have a lot of friends that do, or friends that will stand up, tears rolling down their face and give a testimony. I tell everybody my mom beat the hell out of me. There wasn't no chance. But she kept me in church. We lived close to the church, and she was the Sunday school director. She was, Bible school, director for a couple of years. And my mom is real artsy craftsy. So we decorated every room. We was at the church daylight to dark, getting ready for that. The church van picked me up every Wednesday. I was in the choir. If they had, we had a pretty big church I grew up in, and any plays or drama or, skits that the youth did in front of, boy, she made sure I was signed up to do something in that. And you think that, that's all stuff that anybody can do. You could have, I'm not saying, and I tell folks too, like you might find a picture of me somewhere I'm not proud of, but I went to college. And I'm saying that not necessarily about college, but life happens. Yeah. Now, does a guy every now and then, or did a man at one point in his life ever maybe backslide or whatever you want to call it? Yeah, sure, it could happen.
It happens.
But you don't realize the impact being young and growing up in that church. And that was just it for me. And when times got tough, I look back on that whole story I just told. In college, when times got tough, my Bible always seemed to give me some peace, comfort. I maybe didn't know what it was saying to me, and I might have just opened it, But I remember that's what Grandma did. Grandma always told me to pray, and my granddaddy, man, he was a go-getter, and he was a gritty sucker, and you take it and you take it now. And my grandmother was not. She was quiet. You pray. You don't act like that. You know, complete polar opposites. And so I had both of that in me, but it was the other that always brought me back home. And then, you know, you catch yourself going to church regularly in college. It was crucial, and nobody made me do that. I just felt it was right, and I knew I needed to do that. And relationships, you know, they always seem to be better whenever he was in the middle of it. And then the highs and the lows that rodeo offers, that life offers, but rodeo, you know, looking back, I could almost, you know, tell you that I'm ashamed to say, in the highs, I gave honor and glory, but I also was proud of me.
Yeah.
And in the lows, you learn to humble yourself, go back. And I'm not saying go back to the practice pen like it's all about achieving what you want to achieve, but I'm going to use that as in life. Go back to the practice pen, go back to the basics, slow it down. And now is the first thing I do every morning. Open the Bible, read the Bible. In our church right now, in our Sunday school class, we're going through the book of Daniel. And I've told myself every single day I'm going to read that chapter that we're going through that week and then watch commentary on it. I'm not a very good, I am a good reader and comprehender, but I can catch myself sometimes drifting off. I hear a lot of people do that. And videos help me, you know, and now you have access to that. Yeah. And so you grow up that way. You learn to go back to that through college, through life. You learn and the best thing about my relationship with Jesus and y'all's and anybody's is, you know, I remember hearing a deal one time, you can run as far away from him as you want to, and you'd be hundreds and thousands of miles away from him, and all it takes is a glance back for him to you'd be right back beside him. Yep. You know what I mean? That no distance. And that always comforted me. Because, you know, there's times you get to feeling crummy, or I did this or I did that. And, you know, just the forgiveness that he offers, whenever you humble yourself, fall back and, you know, become obedient. And now, you know, my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, Neil Morgan and Ronnie Dewey's, man, they're very influential to me in my walk. I've been here about 10 years now, 11 years, I guess. And that was the main priority right away. Picked right up where I left off in Robertsdale. Main priority down here was church. And I see now with children how important it was to me, and with my own children how important it is. And through your everyday life, I don't know how somebody that's not a Christian gets through it. You know what I'm saying? The news is a little better now. I'm not going to give Trump any credit. You know, I'm a fan of the way things are going, but I'm not, and by that, I'm not picking on him. I'm just saying any one particular person. I'm not going to give you any credit. Or not, you know, put you on a pedestal because I'm not supposed to. But the news is a little better right now, but it's still, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how people the last 4 years, if they weren't a Christian, could turn it on and not just be like, pull their hair out. You know, I mean, where's the answers? Well, the answers are in the Bible, and they are. You asked about the American deal the other day in the regionals. That was in Lexington, Kentucky. Right down the road from Lexington is the Ark Museum. And we got to go to it. And, man, I got to take a lot of my rodeo buddies. That's one of those deals. I've become I'm not necessarily one of the funny guys out there, but I have some influence on some guys. My age, a little older, a little younger, too. I'm like, hey, y'all got to go with me this day, and suckered them all into going. Well, then you got them walking around this replica of Noah's Ark. Like, whoa. Well, then the Bible and the Holy Spirit does what it does, and it pulls them in, and they go to asking questions, and they go to uncovering things. And that
seeds planted.
Yes, and I remember hearing a preacher say one time about it, you might not necessarily can just go push that seed in that heart, but if you work the ground, disc it, work, you know, kind of like a farmer, disc it. And then when it's time, you know, the seed will be planted. And because I used to think that I could just shove the Bible down the throat, you know, and you got to get it. It don't work like that. And so my faith is everything as far as the way I start my day, the way I end my day with my kids, my wife, in prayer, because I believe in it. And then when times are tough, I lean on it. When times are good, celebrate in it. And when friends call who might be struggling with something and they might not be a believer, man, the opportunity he gives you right then and there, you know. And so if we just slow down, go back to the basics, you know, if you live your faith out, I think that's the greatest opportunity to spread the gospel is through living it. And then following it up with, you know, maybe some Bible knowledge because you open it and read it.
Yeah.
You know, that's crucial. That's maybe the most, you know, what does it tell us? God was the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh. Read the Word. And that's helped me a lot. And Ronnie and Neil have helped me a lot with that. And a Wednesday morning Bible study, a Friday morning Bible study we have at Hickory Hill Baptist Church at 6 a.m. Anybody's welcome to come. It's a men's Bible study. It's helped. It's helped. But isn't it crazy that when you look back, and I can look back now thinking about when I was taking that job in the oil field, man, I was nervous. I was a tough kid, but I was nervous. And I remember sleeping on the floor one night of somebody's house, and I had my Bible with me, and I didn't know where to start. I mean, I knew the Bible, but I just, at this point in my life, what book, and I remember calling my grandmother. I need to read, I want to start a new chapter. And I remember she told me the book of James, good for young men. Read the book of James, read the book of Proverbs. And then when you do that, it just, you know, you're drawn to it.
Yeah.
You know, and you create a habit, and a good habit.
I like what you had said and what you had talked about how you're using your career to make disciples, make fishers of men like God calls us to. And I think a lot of time young people, when they are, say, graduating high school, getting into the transition period, they oftentimes have the question of, I don't know what God's called me to do. But in my perspective, I've always had it as, I know what God's called me to do. He's called me to go make disciples. And wherever my path ends up in my career, that's my mission field. I don't have to go, say, to South America or Africa for me to do some mission work. It's right where you're at in your career and the people that's around you. Because most of the time, if you're working a 9 to 5, you're going to spend more time with those people at your 9 to 5 than you do your family.
Yeah.
Because you've got 9 to 5 with them, and then 6 to 8, 10 with your own family.
Yep.
And it's very crucial to make disciples of the people around you, because that is your mission field.
Absolutely. And I always try to tell people that I've got the opportunity. I'm not asking for any invitations. I try to accept them, like to speak at a cowboy church or speak to a group of young people. I spoke at a couple schools. I always try to tell them, like, look, I've got to include this in there, especially schools, because they're watching now. But you wanted my story. This is my story. And I always try to tell them, you know, it's great to dream. It's great to have goals. I don't have a problem with motivational speakers. I don't. But I do struggle to gain the concept of pouring everything in it to achieve your goal. Man, there's a lot of letdown in that if that ain't God's will for your life. And people, they can't grasp that because, well, I want to do this. And then you could ask them 50 years later when their life went a completely different direction, and wow, I was supposed to do this. And it's almost like, if you know where the light switch is in a dark room, just one foot in front of the next. And I would always tell high school kids, kids I get to help in the rodeo world, I want to rodeo and do that. That's okay. That's good. That's great. But let's deal with Tuesday today.
Yeah.
And now people say, well, that's pretty short-sighted. I'd like some long-term goals. And that was one of the first things my freshman year of college. One of the classes I took was they made us write down a 6-month goal, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. And I'm very fortunate to get to say I accomplished all of them. One of them was the NFR. I did. But had it not gone that way, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not over, you know. And so many times I think people get caught up in, you know, in this day and age, all the motivational, I woke up first thing in the morning and, you know, I got to do this to reach my goal, and then the car won't start. You know, that's one of my favorite stories is all the vehicle trouble I had in college. I wanted to quit. I should have went and worked the oil spill. Would I be where I am now, rodeoing, if I wouldn't? I don't think so. I don't think so. That was the logic. Now, keep in mind, I'm not telling anybody to duck a job and go. No, I'm not saying that, you know.
Yeah.
But I also had a plan. I was with people I trusted. It was a very safe environment, but it wasn't one that a parent, and I'm going to say my parents weren't for it, but due to the fact that I covered all my expenses in college, I didn't have to really answer to anybody. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but hey, Mom, I'm doing this summer. Okay, honey. Give me a number of somebody you're going to be staying with in case something happens. And that was great. I think a lot of times people now are afraid to live that way, and rightfully so. There are some things out there you should be concerned about, but the most part, man, God's got you. I don't believe there's any consequences. I'm sorry. Yes, I do believe there's consequences. I don't believe there's any coincidences.
Yeah.
When you're walking with Christ. That's not a coincidence. So I always try to tell people that, like, do not be afraid to take that step, or so many times even a successful person, say if they're giving their life to Christ, they get this crazy idea that I've got to quit everything and do this because so-and-so in the Bible did. But what he means is turn from your sin and walk this way. Don't quit being a college professor. You know what I'm saying? Maybe change your teaching, but, and I think so many people sometimes get caught up, well, I can't do that no more. Well, did everything you do just have sin tied to it? You know what I'm saying? That's what he says, don't do no more. But, now you might, say you're a big truck driver, a semi, now you might go in the truck stop with a smile on your face instead of grouchy.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true, like you're saying. Like, just if you're walking, by faith and you're not doing bad stuff, change isn't bad, and the next step isn't always scary. A lot of times it's fun, really.
Yeah.
It is.
What goals or milestones do you have before you decide to hang it up?
I'd love to win a world's championship. But that's also one of those that, I tell my wife this. I don't tell a lot of people this. Sometimes we're in the kitchen, put the kids down, we're doing dishes or something. Would have been awesome to have won it in my 20s. And I love my children. I wouldn't give anything for them, but it's tough with kids. And now, like say, Tripp's playing basketball, baseball, and Ellie's doing gymnastics, they're junior rodeo, and to put in the hours that I need for me. And I don't want to be a selfish dad, but at the same time, my kid is out there helping me practice now. My other kids are, my two youngest kids, Ellie and Spike, are sitting in the stands cheering me on, and Tripp's helping ride the horses around, saying, Daddy, I want you. I asked Tripp, what are you going to do to make a living? And he looked at me, I'm on a rodeo, like it was a no-brainer. And, you would think at some time, oh, no, I don't want my kid to say that. But with the money that's paid out now, absolutely. With the knowledge his dad has, and the not shortcuts, but the ways I can help him.
Connections.
Yeah, the connections, absolutely. World Championship would be one of them. And then I think, man, that would put the icing on the cake. I've won so much. I've won second at a lot of rodeos, won first at a lot of rodeos. I could go down the list and tell you all the rodeos I'd love to win first at. Houston being one of them, the American being one, and for obvious reasons. The money, absolutely. I've got so many buckles I've won over the year and saddles now. None of those would just be that big of a difference. But anymore, the drive to win the world now for my kids, for my wife, for myself, that would be fun. And I also try to tell people, when we see these pictures, right, you see on social media now, of all these moments that look so happy, you don't ever see behind the lens of what went into that.
Actually happened.
And I tell people that when they go to the National Finals and they have the back number night, and you see all these husband and wives dressing up and taking this picture, and it's all over Facebook, and all these girls love it and all these guys love it, and they want to take that picture because that's the I made it picture. The finals is fixing to start. They give you your back number. You take your picture. And when you take it, there's tons of people around. It's almost like a red carpet deal, I think. I've never seen that in Hollywood. But you're the center of attention. Yeah. Well, let me tell you what goes into that picture an hour previous when you have kids. Your wife's mad because she ain't got the right shoes. The kids are screaming. You're changing diapers. It's past their bedtime. You're in Vegas. And then you cheese. And when you get done, you're like, ah. I mean, there's so – and I've learned, man, that's just that moment for that picture. But the year I won the average, that picture, there was tears of joy because that was a tough feat. and a milestone I always cherish. And taking that picture of my wife and kids, because they're the ones that go without Dad. That moment was worth it. That moment is sweet. And I often think about that because the memories fade, but you remember those moments. And that would be one of them. The World Championship would solidify the moments of all moments. And, would be one of those, thank you. I think I would tell my wife and my family, thank you. And y'all take the buck on the saddle. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a blast doing this. You're going to put this on me and let me parade it around? So that would be the number one top of the list goal. And then would be to, as you get older, you look at your health. Staying healthy is going to be my goal too. Tripp is 8. I jumped my first year when I was 13. He won't. But at 14 or 15, he will. So we're within 10 years of him steer wrestling off a horse.
Yeah.
I am 35. I'll be 35 this year. I know a lot of guys still steer wrestling at 45 because they've taken care of themselves. They're smart. Could I still be competing at amateur rodeos when my son starts going to amateur rodeos? I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I do. Now, my youngest son, Spike, he's 3. So we got quiet. I don't know if I can milk 15 years out of it, but so that's my next goal is to, when I do slow down, not quit. I'll never quit. Now I've developed I think a good reputation with training horses and stuff, doing clinics, getting to speak at public events. I think that's ways I can continue my sponsorships, representing these people. And so I'll never quit, but that will be, is to maintain it and the longevity to circuit rodeo and include my family, my wife, allow her to get to rodeo more because I'm home more, or when I leave, they go with me type deal.
Yeah.
Top 3 rodeos.
Top 3 rodeos. Number one, one of my favorites, I'm fixing to go to, it's Houston. The way they treat us, it's an awesome rodeo, the production of it, the money, so much goes into the way they treat our families. I've seen, before he passed away, George Bush Sr. came to watch the rodeo one night, was there. This year when I'm there, Reba McEntire's in concert, and we get to go free with our families. Awesome opportunity like that. So Houston be number one. Number 2 would probably be the Calgary Stampede. I've won it before. Like I said, won over 120,000 Canadian. American showed up. It was a lot less. The exchange rate got me, but it's still one of those top tier rodeos, and I'd love to be a 2-time champ there.
Yeah.
But and my third probably favorite rodeo, other than the NFR, that's a rodeo in itself that's pretty cool. My third favorite rodeo would probably be it'd be a toss up in between like Deadwood, South Dakota, or St. Paul, Oregon. Those 2 rodeos are unique. St. Paul has trees in the arena. That area is known for growing like cedar trees and cypress trees, different type of evergreens, and it's a big oval shaped arena. And we don't even come in contact with the trees, but they're in play. If your steer goes that way, you will. And then Deadwood, that was one of the rodeos I went to when I was living on that ranch that summer. And there's so much history in the town of Deadwood, and really it's 1890 into the 1900s. It's not that old, and to go walk those streets and see that, and once again, it's a pretty cool rodeo. There's my top 3.
Reflecting on your journey so far, what are you most grateful for?
Oh boy, the people. I was gonna say the lows. Grateful for the highs, but the lows, they shape you, and the lows put the people in play. Without the lows, I don't need the people. You don't need the help. You don't need the maybe this or that help with it, but I don't. And so the people, I have created some outstanding relationships all across the United States. I truly think I could hitchhike anywhere I need to, and especially west of the Mississippi. You go in the Northeast, I haven't traveled that part much. You go west of the Mississippi, I know somebody in every state, probably up to 10 or 20 people in every state, and could get a ride. That should be a reality show or something. See if a guy could hitchhike the U.S. and know people. But that would definitely have to the people, and one day I'll get everybody paid back.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind once it's all said and done?
That's a good question. I would think, one, I would want my kids, say my dad was a good man. I think, there's definitely more to that, but what better could you say than, be proud of Dad. He was a good man. Short-tempered at times. No, I'm kidding. But as far as the rodeo goes, I think the fact that I tried to help the sport, and not that I can have any impact on it, but by helping, I mean, we have Wednesday night practice sessions in my house where high school kids come, and I will talk them into getting their permit and their card and entering Bonifay when the time comes. Keeping people interested in the sport, helping people, because it's dangerous. It really is. At any time, something could happen, and it could be life-changing. But with the dangers also comes the, what you learn from it, what you can gain from it. And so I hope that that's what they say about old Kyle one day is, he bettered the sport in his area. Might be his area, might not be on a national level. Kind of like what you were saying with, maybe you are supposed to just witness right here. But then when God puts the microphone in front of your face, in front of 19,000 people and says, you're the world champ, what do you say?
Yeah.
I worked so hard for this, or, man, I don't deserve this, but I'm given this opportunity to say, all praise, honor, and glory to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what matters.
Yeah,
A lot of people say, what do you mean, man? You did work for that. Yeah, you did, but what are you giving this moment for?
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. We appreciated having you on.
Heck yeah,
Good
you
one.
bet. I appreciate it. I think that's fun.